Same as civic. Yep. Water must be used different to all these other waters. We don't manage that. We're tough already. Kia ora everyone, call the meeting to order. Please stand. Numa hali mai, kia ora katoa mata a e te whana. Today's whakatauki is Te Waka e Kanoa. We're all in this together. Thank you everyone, please be seated. I have an apology from, welcome councillors, welcome staff, welcome members of the public, media, great to see everyone here. I have an apology from Councillor Payne. Can I please have someone move that? Councillor Phelps moved, Councillor Mackie has seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Does anyone have any declarations of interest, any urgent business? Late items? Lord knows after all this paperwork we can't have more late items. Done. Public forum. Public forum starting off today. It is my sort of really heartfelt privilege to call for the Job Opportunities team. Come on up, team.
I'm not going to use the mic.
Oh, you are?
Thank you, Your Worship, for inviting me up. So, oh gosh, I'm getting all emotional already. But anyway, hello everybody.
Hello, Rose.
Let's try that again, shall we? We know what I'm like. Hello everybody.
Hello.
Okay, so Worship has invited me up here to explain about Job Opportunities. I am leaving the team now, and not just Job Opportunities and not just Clutha District, but the whole of Aotearoa. I am going back home to England. So, sorry. So I just want to thank the Mayor for having me on board, and to Steve for having me on board for all these years, and to the councillors. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I would like to introduce our new member of the team. So first of all, Eden has come back into the team. Eden would be here today, but she trod on a wasp last night. So she has a wasp sting and her foot has exploded like this. So she's sitting at home doing her work with her foot up in the air. So Eden's not here. As you know, Arnsey has joined our team as well, as Brian's PA. And this is lovely Keelan. So Keelan has joined our team. So what's going to happen is for the next few weeks while I'm still here, Keelan's going to get all my information, blah, 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 blah. And then when I go, Edie Cox will step up. And then when Edie goes, as she will, as she intends to move on back to the UK again too, then Keelan will be leading the force. So I'll just introduce Keelan to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Keelan. I'm from Awaka, live down there with my little boy, and I'm really, really excited to engage with the community and get our youth up and working, and just try really hard to get everyone involved. And big shoes to fill, going in after Ruth, but
she can do it, absolutely. So listen, team, one last time, can we do it together? The Job Opportunities song. You know what you need to do. Are you ready? A 3, a 2, a 3, 2, 1. Job Opportunities. Job Opportunities. If you're sitting on your bum and money you ain't got none, then come and see us on at Job Opportunities. 1, 2, 3, 4. Job Opportunities. Job Opportunities. Job Opportunities. Smash them together, and what have you got? Job Opportunities. Not boots. Job Opportunities.
No. I'm actually going to stand for this one. So the different iterations of job initiatives that we've had over the years started 12, 13 years ago. And at that stage, Ruth was coming and giving all the experience, all the wealth of knowledge She was given it voluntarily. I think of the early ones of Get a Job, Get a House, Get a Life, and Ready Steady Work. They were great days. What Ruth has contributed not only to the district, every time there's been a young person out of prison or a young person on their knees out of work, she's always had the she's always had the social awareness to get it right. And for that, our district not only owes a huge debt of gratitude, but as it stands now, from the first iteration till today, she has been instrumental in over 800 young locals into work. For that, councillors, that's a standing ovation. She's done one hell of a lot for the youth council. She's done one hell of a lot for the district. I'm going to miss her like anything. I think we all will. But our loss, someone else's gain. All the best, girl.
Thank you. Thank you,
Oh,
team.
thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, team. Bye, everyone. I'm sure I'll see you.
Time for hugs all round us, guys. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, team. Right, public forum. Who else is there in public forum, please? No one else in public forum? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, someone's got it.
Don't want to rain on your parade because it sounded quite happy there. I'll get into it.
Sad.
All right. I'm Phil Barrett, and I'm just here to speak to you today about a couple of things, mainly about the rates rise or the impending rates rise. Well, good afternoon, boys and girls, and anyone stuck in the middle. I thank you for this opportunity to speak here today, and I'll start by explaining a couple of things. Firstly, when I say the council, generally it is not the elected council here in front of me that I'm meaning. I believe the elected members have a crucial role in delivering the ratepayers' voice to this table, and especially for the newly elected councillors who have appeared to have inherited failings of the previous administration. So in general, it's the unelected end of this organisation I mean, and including the mayor, as it's his opinions that get published most often. Instead of coming here today and running everyone down with personal attacks and pointing out the obvious, I've decided to change tack and offer some suggestions and pass on some feedback I've collected from the community. The proposed rates rise for the Clutha District Council. I, as others, have read some comments by Mayor Cadogan in the Leader recently, in reply to some concerned ratepayers who took the time to voice their valid fears over the impact that the intended rise would bring to their family. The response by Mayor Cadogan read like a teacher telling off a naughty child for not doing what they were told, and then the added bonus of being told not to listen to Facebook flip-flop and misinformation. So here's my first suggestion. Be honest. Even if Three Waters had been implemented, it was not a free ride. If Labor by some miracle had forced this on the people, it still would have cost something, with some commentators saying up to $2,300 per rateable unit being applied for just the water. It was never going to be free, something omitted in the article. Every political party of substance said that if elected, the Three Waters would be repealed. This point was made many times. No contingency plan was ever made, as it would appear blind faith in the Labor government outshined reality and overshadowed sound decision making. Another favourite of the media was to blame conspiracy theory for people not listening to the set narrative. Agenda 2030, the United Nations and WEF collaboration, was for years dismissed as a conspiracy theory, with people being ridiculed for even mentioning it. How much of the $80 million debt that I'm told we're in now is a result of compliance to the Sustainable Development Goals? The Sustainable Development Goals that are introduced into our policy making. The ironic thing, with councils across the country rushing to achieve Goal 5, that is of gender equality and inclusion, and Goal 13, climate action, and other goals supposedly designed for a better world, is that the goal number 1, that of no poverty, has been completely ignored. And Goal 3, health and well-being, has been severely impacted by the mental health of those of whom these ideals are being foisted upon. This new system of simply dropping the scripted response in the local paper of intended outcomes for many is unacceptable. The media has been captured by the left and reporting is generally biased to support one side of the situation. People have turned away from the mainstream in droves and simply do not trust what's written or spoken on the news. Another suggestion, rather than alienate people, for the most part, trying to source information and discuss with others as flip-flop, misinformation or conspiracy theory, how about some honest engagement with the community that ultimately pays the wages? People are quite rightly worried and frightened about their futures and how they're going to manage the impending rates increase. That turns to anger when people are expected to tighten their belts and somehow budget. And all that can be seen in new utes and shiny buildings and other projects for many seem unnecessary. I would have thought the people entrusted to govern our village would have some level of financial nous. Quite simply, the costs you add to a business have to be passed on, and after the previous government's record inflation and money printing, there just isn't any left. The business model of spending all the money and asking for more needs to be seriously altered. Perhaps someone from outside council needs to look at the spending practices and a model of more directed spending on core services adopted. As it stands, not many people out there believe the council have the skills needed to manage the enormous responsibility ahead of us. Now, finally, I've got some questions that were forwarded to me because people knew that I was coming here today, and a lot of people can't be bothered doing it, so they gave me these. Will the intended rates rise be a breach of the Treaty of Waitangi? I don't know. Considering the Maoris and Pacifica families will be disproportionately affected, as many of them have lower incomes and larger families, is this proposal racist? Where is the money? The council has gone from an almost zero debt in 2016 to a reported $80 million now. Does the council think an audit is appropriate and strategies put in place to monitor future spending? And here's an interesting one. How are you intending to charge the many rural properties with no reticulation, sewage or stormwater services for this service? As stated, people in the district are frustrated and scared for their very futures. The elderly and hardworking families feel completely let down and in disbelief that the rates paid, sometimes for generations, have now amounted to a large debt and inadequate infrastructure. If a farmer doesn't allow for upgrading machinery over the course of farming, he's out of the game. There's no handout, and it's just, that's how it is. Now, there's a group that's organised a public meeting at the town hall, sorry, it's not the town hall, I can't even say the word, at the country club in Balclutha on Thursday, the 28th of February at 7 p.m. A well-respected MC and is in the process of being engaged to govern proceedings. And I'm here to extend an invitation to all the councillors and the executive team to turn up to this meeting. It would be a great opportunity to answer some set questions and perhaps halt some of the flip-flop regarding the proposed rates rise and get some information out there that people can understand. So I don't know what to do with this. Someone gave it to me, I'll read it. Meeting on 15th February 2024. In the interest of transparency, the Mayor, CEO and councillors are formally invited to a meeting at the Balclutha Town and Country on Wednesday the 28th of February at 7 p.m. to address the proposed Clutha District rates rise. RSVP Monday, 19th of February 24 at 12 p.m. to clutharatesrise@gmail.com. The format will be advised prior to the meeting with questions for address forwarded to the council for their approval on Monday, 26th of February. So that's it. I'll give that to someone, I don't know who. But I do thank you for your time. Sorry if I rained on your parade. I do respect that people in the district have worked very hard to do some things. And I do hope that some of the things I actually said sink in a wee bit. Yeah.
Questions, councillors? Thank you for that. For any further public point?
Hello, and thank you for the chance to speak. I won't be as eloquent as that last fella. I just think these rate rises talking about are just the figures are just crazy. A lot of people just can't afford it. I know on the pension it'd be about a quarter of your pension, which if you haven't got other income, makes it very hard for people. And I think we just got to have council has just got to have a think about what is going to be spent on. My suggestion would, I'm from Milton, so my suggestion would be just flag the swimming pool for a start. I think the water is very important, but I think government have put both governments, Labor and National, have put a big burden on us, all our whole communities. And I think it's just, they're asking the impossible. You're talking about 320 million, aren't you, roughly? Well, where are we going to get that money from? There's only, how many ratepayers? About 11,000? Everybody here can do the figures. So we just got to look. As far as Milton goes, I think the streetscape should be just flagged straight away. They should look at the swimming pool. If we can't fix up the one, or just use the one that we got now, I don't know, $14 million, that's a lot of money. And they're talking about I know it's an off the cuff thing about a caravan park or whatever you want to call it. Well, I think you should leave that to private enterprise myself. If you can find some land for them, I think it's a good idea, but I think it should be done by private enterprise. My rate's under 25%, which has been touted about, which I think is just, my rates would be go over about just under 2.9 to 5,500. I worked it out. My figures could be wrong. If it's only 4,500, that's still a hell of a lot of money to go, especially to go at once. Yeah, that's about it really, but I don't know if yeah, that's about all I wanted to say. I'm pretty basic, but
Look, thank you, sir. Just before we head to questions, what's your name?
Doug Waits.
Doug. Questions for Doug, please, too. No questions. So can I say, Doug, firstly, thank you. I think that there has been a misconception here or a misunderstanding. There's a tool that council's used for a number of years to have actually taken Clutha District from in the top third of rates in New Zealand down to number 7, as shown by the Taxpayers Union's figures, so I'm only going by there, has been a rates cap, which we set at 4% for every year for the last 12 years. And as I am actually proud of the fact that we have had that rigour in the system. So there's the rates cap of 4%. That is not the rate increase, which would be below that. And this is where the confusion has first come in. We have set a rate cap of 25%. That is not a rate increase. So it is our task now, we're just at the start of the LTP, and the rigour that each and every, there is a huge burden on each and every councillor for the work that we're having to go through to consider our options. And I appreciate the suggestions you made. No doubt we're going to get many of these over the next 4 months. It's our intention, we're going out, there'll be over 8 public soapbox meetings, so we will be going around the district to hear your thoughts. And the process of the actual setting of the rates doesn't happen until July the 1st.
Okay.
So rates cap was the first thing we had to do. That's sort of like a lid. We will not go above that. And please don't think that that is the rate increase. Although we have openly had the ungodly reality of, as soon as the Stop Three Waters reforms were stopped, we were faced as an individual council, like every other council in New Zealand, with the new regulator pushing through the new regulations and us in the old system not being able to move to the new. We really need those clinical discussions between us over the coming months. And I actually thank you for your suggestions, your heartfelt presentation, and look forward to having further discussions with you.
I'd just like to say one more thing.
Mhm.
I think sometimes, excuse me for being basic, you should just tell the government to get stuffed. You can only do so much with water at a time with the money and the amount of rates that you can do. And you can only do so much. If the government expects more, just tell them we can't do it.
We rest assured, even last week we had 2 days where we had that exact opportunity, and we are pleading with them we need efficiencies. And we are in discussions with the government, but they make the laws, and we at the mercy of those.
The French farmers wouldn't put up with it, I can tell you.
I didn't hear one word there. The acoustics in this building's terrible. But, look, I really appreciate, as I say, your heartfelt thoughts and look forward to further discussions as we go through this process with you. July the 1st, setting of the rates. And thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Philip. Any further members of the public? If not, if not, team, we will move to agenda item number 1, which is the verbal submissions for the draft Milton Reserve Management Plan. Where's Mike? Mike Godsman. Welcome, Mike. Just call Mike to the stage just to give an overview. It's Mike's paper. Floor's yours, Mike.
Thanks, Your Worship. Obviously this item relates to the draft Milton Reserve Management Plan. Council made a decision last year to review the 2017 Milton Reserve Management Plan, or RMP, and we've been following through the process since then, and we've got to the point where we have now a draft updated or reviewed RMP in front of us, and that went out for a submission period over December, February, closed on 2nd of February. We received 191 submissions on that draft RMP, and this item was obviously an opportunity for people to speak to those submissions. I believe we have actually 10 people to speak today. One person, number 3 there, Marilyn Campbell, is not coming. And just in terms, so that's the process today, I guess in a nutshell, going forward, hoping to have a feedback report to you summarising all of those 191 submissions plus what you hear today. Hope to have that to you by the 14th of March and get your direction on any changes to the RMP and have a final document for you to adopt, hopefully by the 27th of March. So happy to take any questions on the process, but otherwise hand it over to you.
Questions, team? If not, look, it's a process that we're well familiar with, Mike. I appreciate all the work that you put in. Can I just have it, Mike, that like you're going to stay so that if there's technical questions, we can refer them to you? Thank you very much, Righto. So that brings the verbal submitters forward. Just outline for anyone that hasn't done verbal submission before, please make your way to the stand. The floor is yours. Know that the councillors have already read your written submission, so consequently, it's not a matter of reading the written submission before. Rather, you have a short period where you can highlight the issues that you've already brought and maybe bring a different aspect to the subjects you've raised. It's not time to go off on new subjects. About all. First submitter, Councillor Kevin Barron.
Thank you, elected members, Mayor, CDC staff, ladies and gentlemen. I can think of nothing better than a beautiful camping ground at Taylor Park, with powered and unpowered campsites, camper van parking, cabins, bathroom, laundry and kitchen facilities for holiday makers, visitors to family and friends, ploughing competition visitors, cycleway riders, tourists, motocross competitors and a myriad of other people that visit Milton District. Regarding the submission document, was noted on page 18 that Council was happy to accept feedback on any part of the draft management plan. So after listening to community representatives, visiting Taylor Park, and putting this submission in, I understand there's a conflict of interest between me being a councillor and being a member of the public. But as I join the council to help the day-to-day aspects of the community, I see it as my role to put my views forward. And I'd ask that you focus on the issues contained in the submission rather than me being a councillor. My submission is about governance, consultation, professionalism, and listening to the community. I'm going to give you 11 points as to why option A has to be the first step in developing a management plan achieving the objective of a fully functioning, income-producing, community-accepted camping ground at Taylor Park. The management plan information provided for submitters to make a decision on the implications for adding cabins failed to say how many cabins were to be placed at Taylor Park. So it makes it near impossible task to make a decision. Is it 4 cabins, 10 cabins, 20 cabins? The document didn't state how many. Number 2, in an ever escalating economic environment with no financial information on the cost of establishing a camping ground, cost of cabins, maintenance and administration costs, along with income projections, submitters are working in the dark to make a decision as they need to know the possible, if any, impact on rates. Number 3, with cabins being an important part of the decision making in this plan, the 2017 Milton Reserves Management Plan, which included feedback from 1,600 submitters, had the word cabin mentioned twice. Submitter 203 said, does need accommodation available as well as chalets or cabins, and submitter 12 said, add 2 to 3 cabins at the camping ground. No further information or discussion regarding the cabins in that document was provided. So moving on to Our Place Community Plan 2018, the closest reference to a camping ground was potential projects at Taylor Park are listed below. 1, no longer providing a camping ground facility. 2, providing a camping ground facility for short-term occupancy, e.g. up to 2-week stay. And 3, council continuing to operate the reserve with rates input to cover costs and long-term residents permitted. It contains no mention of cabins at all. But in Table 2.1 of the 2023-2024 Management Plan, it refers to relevant projects from our Milton Community Plan 2018, indicating 4 cabins were added to the camping ground in 2023. With no mention in the 2018 Community Plan about cabins at Taylor Park, these 4 cabins arrived and are placed outside the current camping area with no consultation. Point 6, subsequent consultation was carried out with 28 of the 32 submissions favouring a camping ground at Taylor Park. A further 168 submissions received, 111 expressed a clear view that the cabin should be removed, and 48 wanted them relocated from their position on the green space. Point 7, prematurely placing the cabins on the green space at Taylor Park is a change of purpose requiring consultation and is contrary to the Reserves Act, given that the cabins are outside the existing campground footprint. Point 8, it is noted that at the time of the draft reserve management plan was prepared, there was insufficient time and resources to engage with Mana Whenua on the opportunities and policies contained in this plan. The council has a duty to do this engagement. Point 9, onto the draft reserve management plan. Option A for the campground is the existing campground footprint of 3,500 square metres, insufficient in size for cabins, let alone a fully fledged campground. So this does not meet the criteria for a campground or to satisfy a potential Clutha District Council lease proposition of the campground to a private contractor. So this, as a development option, would not be suitable. Option B is to extend the campground to include the existing swimming pool area and place cabins in this area. This may be a suitable area, but how do you do that when there is a swimming pool there? When will it be removed? And as we just heard, will it be removed? So no information as to what a campground in this area may look like or contain to assist a submitter choose this as an option. And number 11, option C, for the campground Option C for the campground was to include the swimming pool area and the green space of Taylor Park itself. And as I've stated, 165 of this 168 submissions, 97% had indicated that the cabins had to be removed or relocated from the green space. So if we listen to the community, this is not an option also. So in summary, from a councillor's governance point of view, how could you endorse a management plan that does not contain a plan of a campground at Taylor Park, including full financial information? At this point, option A, keeping the status quo, has to be endorsed so that a comprehensive management plan can be completed, outlining what is possible to make a campground at Taylor Park acceptable to the community, profitable for the community, and an asset for the Clutha District people for now and the future. Clutha District Council has a great opportunity to gain respect from the community by going back to the start and preparing this plan. I'll take any questions.
Questions, Tanya?
Just can we have a copy of that, Kevin, please? Councillor Barron.
Certainly.
Further questions, Tanya?
No?
You do?
No.
Oh, no, you don't. Thank you. Next one is Vince Bransgrove. Welcome, Vince.
For a start, he spoke more than 5 minutes. Our last man.
I do give some latitude, Vince, but I was watching and I appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, councillors and others, I'm Vince Bransgrove from Milton. I want to talk a little bit about myself, just a paragraph, so you know what sort of person I am. I was brought up on a farm. I did my carpentry and joinery trade, started in 1963, left Milton at the age of 21, 1968, and went to Perth, Western Australia. I worked there for 12 and a half years, mostly in the Pilbara region of the iron ore towns, ended up building as a building supervisor on many large projects such as schools, hospitals, extending subdivisions, roads, housing, drainage, and I built hundreds, and I mean hundreds, of single men's quarters. Most times looking after 60 men at a time, involved in all sorts of trades. So I am a positive person. My working life has been 52 and a half years paid employment as a self-employed builder. So I have worked, and I know what work means. I'll start now with my main letter, which I did send to a local newspaper, but a lot of the newspapers are very left, so it can get published. There are signs at each end of Milton that says town of opportunity. Maybe it should be the town of negatives, or don't stop here, nothing for you. Taylor Park years ago was planted in potatoes by my late wife's grandfather, Ted Hills. You may not know that. There used to have great flower gardens beside the path as you walk to the pool, beautifully kept. Also, years ago, the grassed area was marked out as a hockey field, which finished also long ago. But it's always been a camping ground forever. I built the camp kitchen there in 1982. So this is the next phase to extend accommodation for people to stay overnight or short term. For holiday makers, trail bike riders, employment for people for sawmills, boat building, retail shops, builders, or even school teachers until they buy or rent a house. As a positive person, I look for the good in people and their plans. These cabins are self-contained with a shower, toilet, basin, kitchen, bed, cupboard. I spent many years in construction camps, and these are flash. My original room was 8 foot by 6 foot. a bed and a cupboard. The 10 units take up about 10% of the grass area. The negative mob did not mention the great work the prison men have done gaining skills which may help after they serve their time. We all have made mistakes in life, so give them a second chance. They did a great job, well done. To get anything done in this country, you're up against the negative people that say no to everything. Not in my backyard. Clutha District Council is providing accommodation for temporary workers and travellers and doing better than Central Otago. If any motel is full, sometimes it is on sports events in Dunedin, the motels are full in Milton, some could also stay there just for the night. These people will spend money on food, etc., and benefit the town. Maybe the negative people will rethink, but I doubt it. They are not huts, they are self-contained accommodation for all, and I believe they will be popular. I have a little bit more to go. Past Monday this week, I went to Taylor Park and measured the area, 120 metres by 80 metres, 960 square metres of park. The cabin area takes up 50 by 30, 150 square metres, leaving 810 metres of grass area. The cabins take up 6.4%. I spoke to the caretaker and he said one cabin is being used by a prison officer, has been there for 3 weeks. I spoke to the prison officer, why was he staying there? He said he works night shift and to drive back to Dunedin, which takes 45 minutes after work, is not good. So he's been there for 3 weeks, paying his way. He said he buys food from the supermarket and cooks it there in the cabin or sometimes in the main kitchen sometimes. The caretaker also said that he had a worker from Cauldron Stewart who wanted to stay. Also a worker for Finnegan Freezing Works here in Balclutha, but the other units were not ready yet. He also had another man staying in a tent for 3 weeks and now living in Chaucer Street. He's either renting or buying or bought a house, but he wasn't sure. He said that he would have stayed in one if it was ready. So the Clutha District has missed out on $1,200 per week over those 4 units. The caretaker told me he'd been there for 6 years, 2 or 2.5 years as a caretaker, and he said the green space, no one uses it. And I found out he is also a positive person like me, and he's all behind what the council is doing. He said there's an element of people in this town not helping, and they were his words, not mine, but I agree. We both agree there is room for fire brigade for the 10 units. So people coming to work, which is the greatest, so people are coming for work, which is great, and that is positive. I was told out of the 3 of the 4 men building these cabins have now left the prison and also working in the building trade. So they've gained some experience. I'll just finish now. My father was the mayor for 9 years in Milton and Bruce District, and he would have been behind this project 100%, and I know that. Just quickly, today's paper, front page. It's a newspaper, you don't realise what it is. There's accommodation there, 700 men. This is an Australian company wanting to move over here and build units 3 to 6 stories high with 700 workers in Central Otago. To me, shows you how slack that we are here. Why doesn't a New Zealand company build it? So all the best, Mr. Mayor. I think you're doing a good job. But these are required. As I said, there's 4 people that would have used those cabins if they're all ready now. And people are coming here for work. And that's great for the town. Yeah.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Bransgrove, please?
Just can we have a copy of that, please?
Yes, I've got copies here.
Thank you.
Further questions? Yeah, not that. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for letting me talk. Thank you.
Just so the public knows, questions, this is a public forum for councillors to ask questions, not for members of the public to ask questions. Sorry, it's a rigid process that we have to follow. So the next one's Wayne Carr. Wayne, welcome. Does Wayne, okay, if one comes back in, if someone can just go and see, but I'll go to next one, Roger Hodgkinson, and then we'll go back to one if we want. Welcome, Roger. Hello there. Please come up to the microphone because we're going to have it recorded for anyone that's watching live. This is the one we got on, Roger.
Okay. No, it's been unexpected. I thought I just said observer status here today, but yeah, I'm been formerly raised in the Clutha Valley and farmed there over 30 years, and I've always interested in strategic things and tourism and obviously agriculture, and I was involved in trying to keep the Bruce Wallen Mill functioning there. Unfortunately, it didn't eventuate. That's a regret there. But my interest is I have a property in Milton, but I just happened to go into the Taylor Park there and noticed the cabins, the Sweetwee cabins, and self-contained, as a gentleman said. My thought was, well, how could we best have a worker accommodation on a casual basis and cater for tourists or people, cyclists. And my initial feeling is that they're trying to condense something into sensibly a park setting with some lovely amenity trees and the swimming pools still there. But the actual green area, which fronts onto the main road, it seems neither one thing nor another. As the gentleman said, it's not big enough. It's not like if you're doing like swimming pool, it's not a standard Olympic swimming pool, or they're in the same with the green spaces. Presumably it's too small to pay for cricket or other activities that have certain dimensions that they require. They're imposing those 4 cabins with, I understand, maybe another 6 projected on that area. It seems to invade that area or preoccupy an area, which even makes it more minimalised that you can only kick a ball around there rather than keeping the green space, which is the main asset. So as my submission just briefly said, perhaps you could look at relocating some of the wish lists of activities that you're wanting there, rather than just focusing in on that particular property, is actually saying how, in a strategic sense, perhaps we can put some elements in other parts of town to cater for the cyclists there, because they're like a feeder service that we never used to have. It doesn't automatically, back in the day, would be you might have coaches coming through and stopping for comfort stops or a meal or something like that in a conventional sense. But the cycle industry is a feeder industry that we haven't really experienced until recently, and that goes for the great trails and the lesser ones. That you've actually drawing people in there of a different demographic, longer stay, perhaps more in their 50s if they've got electric bikes there, and you want to be able to cater for them. So perhaps a standalone thing for cyclists as a cycle hub for Milton, outside in a different location from the Taylor Park, if you want to keep that ambience and casual green space for the locals. I think you've got to make a separation between commercial activities and what the expectations of the local community is, and their reverence for that green space. That's about all I want to say at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roger.
Guys.
Questions? Hold on, Roger. Whoa, you're gonna have the questions. Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Roger. So just for clarifications, you want the cabins, but you want them shifted out of Taylor Park?
Well, I haven't got any view. I'm just
That's what I'm
suggesting
trying to
you have. I've mentioned an option. I've emailed councillors there just with another option. I don't really want to make it in the public forum like this. It's early days yet, but if anybody wants to have a discussion about what you want to, activities you want in Milton, I'm very familiar with the town. I've had property for there for about probably 30 years now in a very low key way. But I just think you don't want to have just one option in front of you. You want to see who's you wanting to attract, how they're coming to you, and where you want to intersect with them, and how you want to hold them, and perhaps have other things built up over time that'll actually encourage them that you can move them around Milton, for example. That goes for whether it's a tourist town or whatever it is. If you want to get in there and actually have visitors, that cycle trail, they will only develop the numbers coming through, and you want to be able to keep them in town longer. It's not a case of just tipping them onto the main street, which seems to be the one of the things, because you haven't actually got it joined there. You've got it dropping in south the end of town, and then they've got to make their way paved and follow their nose, and then catch it on the other side of the main showgrounds there. So there's plenty to play for, but you've got to know what elements you want to have in town, who's going to publicly fund them, and who's got interests in the private sector to provide that. And I think the council are smart enough to move these elements around and then consult on it. So it doesn't sound like it'd be a quick process, but anyway, you've got this very familiar team there with Steve and Brian and Mr. DeWitt, Jules here. There. So I'm happy to have discussions if they want to go further about it. Any other questions?
Questions, Dave? Thank you, Roger.
Great.
Appreciate your input and your enthusiasm.
Good on you. Right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Just checking, Michael, Peter, Wayne Carr. Right, we'll just keep rolling, and if he's here, I'll pick him up the next time through. So next one's David Matheson. Welcome, David. Is David there?
No.
David not there. There. Next one's Robbie. Robbie Phillips. Welcome, Robbie. Floor's yours.
Worship, councillors, members of the public, thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's just a pity that we weren't having this discussion 12 months ago when we first was raised that the huts were they were changing Taylor Park to camping ground and putting the huts where they were. And a lot of grief would have been avoided if this discussion had been had then. My background, Robbie Phillips, Miltonian through and through, bred there. I was in the hospitality industry for 20 odd years. I had the motels for 17, which I've just managed to sell. So I've got the life back. And I'm also the local fire chief, which I've been for the last 9 years. We're looking at going for option A, and that is the removal of the huts from the park. That was the only, when you look at the three options, that was the only option that was really suitable. The other two, to leave the huts, option 2, to leave the huts there, then move them when the swimming pool was relocated. And I don't know if I'll see that in my lifetime. Then to make it a viable camping ground, you look at the number of huts, power points and tent sites you would have to have. I think we would lose a lot more of the green space than we've already lost. I think you're looking at least 20 huts and maybe 50 power points plus campsites, tent sites to make it a viable commercial operation. If we could put it amongst the trees, you may get the numbers in there, but we've got to keep that green area. Going long term, you're either short term or long term. The two do not mix. Trust me, I've been there and tried it with the motels. We tried having emergency or long term accommodation, and in the end, we use one motel for long term, the other motel for short term. You can just not mix the two. It's not long before you'll find the long term, there'll be a clothesline go up, there'll be a couple of car parks start sitting outside the unit, and then it progresses from there no matter how hard you try to stop it. I've been involved in the fire brigade, 47 years. We used Taylor Park when I joined as a competition ground. With the removal or the shifting of the two huts, we can still once again use that ground for training purposes. But as far as the widest, for a bigger if we have a bigger competition like the Otago Southern Championship, we'd be very limited whether we could accommodate that on the Milton ground, which would be a shame because it was one of the nicest running tracks in the Otago Southern area. So I'd really like us to see that the huts either relocated or especially removed from the green space. I understand there is a need for a camping ground in Milton. It's whether it's a council job or a private enterprise. It's up to the councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie. Questions, please, Tim? Councillor Graham.
Yeah, thank you, Robbie. How often has Milton had the Otago Southern Champs? Is that every 4 years, 8 years, 10 years? That often?
I'm just trying to think. I've been in the brigade, 47 years. I think we've had 5.
Oh, right, that often.
5 Otago Southern Championships. And there is another one, we're looking at having our 125th in 27, so another 3 years. And we're hoping to host the Otago Southern plus other events in Milton.
Excellent, thank you.
Questions, Tim? Robbie, can I just ask it, 2027, if the huts were where they were, can you run that Otago South? Yeah, okay, it's a pain or whatever, but can you do it?
I would need to go up there. It's supposed to be Jules up there so we can, at the moment, there is where the car parking would still be here. Just about encroaching on what we might do, and I'd hate to think we'd damage the vehicles.
Yeah, right. Anything else? Councillor Volwell.
Just a question, thanks, Robbie. At the moment, you've got 2 tracks there now. Would you like to have a 3rd track as well for a bigger event?
But the second track would be very marginal the way the hut is in the car parks, would be very marginal whether we could use that second track. At the moment, yes.
Any more, Tim? If not, thank you, Robbie, and I appreciate the input you're giving, the talks we've had, that's what was needed, so thank you for your help. Wayne car's back. Wayne, sorry, where's Wayne? Welcome, Wayne. We'll flick back to Wayne, so you'll see Wayne was number 4. Welcome, Wayne, the floor is yours. No, you're right.
It's going to be short and sweet, as you can see. In 2017, we had a review of councillors came to us. We had a meeting in the park. Councillor Finch, I'm pretty sure Volwola was there. Went around the park, what they were going to do to improve it. There was 16 things mooted. Not one has been done. So why are you having a review of what's been done when nothing has been done? There was nothing ever mentioned about, and I call them huts because that's what they are. I've got a white bait hut that's bigger than them. And there was nothing ever mentioned about them. So, and next one is, we put our submissions in. Why was work continuing on those huts when you didn't know the result of what was going to be happening? As in, plan A was to put the park back the way it was. So to me, I did hear the results before. They were Is that the results that they're? Oh, like, I mean, the submissions, the number, have they been counted?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the ones we heard before. Yeah, so are you going to go to plan A or
Sorry,
option A?
just need to check. We're hearing submissions. I know that Mike hasn't produced a report yet to council. I don't think Mike have yet. So I'm not sure. We usually wait for the reporting officer to give us all that. I don't think that's been done, is it, or have I missed it?
No, so through you, Your Worship, no. So there's been, so we've received the submissions, 191, I think, on this stage of consultation, and yeah, so obviously need to work through those and prepare a summary of that feedback, as well as, you'll obviously be able to see all of the submissions that have been supplied.
So, Your Worship, we might not have done that yet. It might have been up to individuals that might have gone and counted things from the submission pages, but officially we haven't had our report yet.
And we have to be quite clear that it's not a result. Submissions are one component of the overall deliberation that councillors make, and specifically on submissions, it is the weight and breadth of the arguments, not a numbers game. So you could have 50 of the same argument. In effect, that's a very strong one argument. So it's not like it's a result, it's only one component of the deliberation that councillors have to make.
So, as you say, one component. So we wasted our time, because I truly believe that you guys will not shift those huts, regardless of what we've told you or what everyone has said.
I know that the process that we're taking is, we're really serious about it. We're here, we're listening. I would be very concerned if any councillor had made a position on this at the moment, because we're going through a process. So I have faith in the diligence of the councillors and in the process.
It's nothing to do with the councillors. It's just my feeling that
you guys, we can't change that. I know the seriousness of the nature as the councillors take on and the burden that they have, and I believe in their ability.
And last one is, you're building all these, as before Councillor Barron said, numbers game. I've got some paperwork that said there was going to be another 10 or 20 probably, and then you're going to look at lease it out and or sell why are you putting all this money into that when there's not going to be no profit?
Just through Your Worship, just for clarity, there is confusion around what is the Reserve Management Plan submission process about, and the process is about, because it's a statutory process, what is the use to which the reserve is to be put. That's the statutory decision that council needs to make. So, and that is how the consultation was couched, and that is what council looks at when it is looking to make a decision. So it's not specifically about cabins or not cabins, or that. It is what is there, is Taylor Park in some form to be used as a camping ground? That is a decision that council will need to make. And that decision will be made in public, through deliberation, transparently, and via staff reports based on receiving the submissions and doing the homework. That will be again published beforehand. So this is just one part, the hearing of submissions, and then we've got to do some more homework, and then we concern ourselves with a decision around the use to which the reserve is to be put. That's the requirement that we have to deal with.
Further questions, please? No questions. Thank you for that. Appreciate it, mate. Next person is Ray Powell. Welcome, Ray. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Right, I'm not going to introduce myself because I did that the last time, so I'm not going to bore you with that again. Originally, my only concern was about the siting of the cabins on the green space at Taylor Park. I thought they were extremely untidy. It's a beautiful park, and I just thought it was just ridiculous. And most people in Milton thought that too. Oh, by the way, most people in Milton are positive, regardless of what Vince says. I think Vince is being negative, quite frankly. I'm quite disgusted at his approach.
Carlton, guys,
Okay,
we keep the personals out.
okay, but anyway, I don't like being called negative because I'm a very positive person, I can assure you. However, as I gain more information and knowledge of the CDC's intentions, I am now of the opinion that the camping ground should be relocated away from Taylor Park to another area. And it is the intention of the CDC to lease out the camping ground. There's no question about that whatsoever now. They've made that positive. The existing camping ground has only an easement or an arrangement to take up 3,500 square metres of Taylor Park Reserve. This has been exceeded by the placing of the cabins. So basically you put the horse before the cart here. You should have got it all sorted before you put the cabins in. And okay, this is exceeded by the placing the cabins, plus caravans and camper vans have recently been photographed sited on the park area. The Clutha District Council has not provided a business plan, and I now question them if they have done due diligence on a viable camping ground for a third party to lease, because I'm sure they haven't, but that's a question I don't know. I contacted 3 camping grounds to get a ballpark figure of what would constitute a viable standalone camping ground. The ballpark figure, and this is a ballpark figure, was about 20 cabins and 50 cabins and 50 para points, plus a large number of non-parent sites, and then it would have to be run in a partnership or a family-run operation as it involves a 7-day operation. Now, just an example here, Waihola has 14 cabins, 14 cabins, 80 para sites, and about 60 unpaired sites. Naseby, I just haven't got the figures of Naseby, but I was talking to the Naseby guy, and I think he's about 24 cabins, 3 are like motel units, about 50 to 60 caravan points, and he says it's hard work. And so you can ring around. You guys obviously haven't rung around. So for a standalone business that's got to pay its way, it's hard work at that. I think Waihola's making a buck. I hope they are. What the hell are we in business for if we're not making a buck? It's obvious there's not enough ground available to have a viable camping ground attached to Taylor Park. It's quite simple. There's just not enough acreage there. There has been no timeline provided re the removal of the swimming pool at this stage, only a possibility, and therefore you cannot include the pool ground as available. So you can't include the pool ground as available because it might never happen, might not be in my lifetime, who knows. I'd like to think we get a new swimming pool. I'd like to think it could be started this year, but it's in the hands of the gods, really. The Taylor Park was built and paid for by the local ratepayers for their own use, for family recreation, for visitors, and you've got my original paper, which I sent down to you. So my original submission you should all have, so you can read that. Option A is the only option to consider. Return the green space area to Taylor Park to the status. So return the green space area of Taylor Park to the status quo by removing the cabins, and then start making plans for the relocation of the caravan park. Now, I'm all for cabins. You just put them in the wrong place. It's a park, and I'll disagree with Vince again. I knew his father, Ray, very well. He's a nice guy, really nice guy. Did a great job for Milton, and I would have think he was horrified to see those cabins there. That's my opinion.
Excuse me, can we please?
Yep.
No, just generic reference. Now you're getting specific references.
Okay.
So
right.
we don't have the specific personal attacks.
Okay. Well, that's not a personal attack. I'll just give an opinion. Okay. So basically that's me. So you know where I stand, and the majority of people in Milton behind me. If you want to put a whole lot of if you want to make a low-cost housing estate, there's plenty of ground somewhere to do it. No problem. This is a camping ground, a small camping ground, and a family park area. It's still used as a family park area, and regarding what the caretaker said, I don't know how many hours a day he spends watching his TV, but he doesn't look out the window much. And, so that's me.
Questions, please, team. Councillor Graham.
Yeah, Ray, good to see you. I wasn't here when you made your initial presentation. Just referring back to the previous submitter, what faith would you have if everything aligned with option A, you know, the overpowering submissions for it and everything lined up to it? What faith would you have in that the council would make the right decision on that?
Well, I firmly believe in the democratic process. I must admit, I've been a bit shaken the last few months. It has shaken me a wee bit, but I do firmly believe in the democratic process, and I think most people here observe it.
I think, and I'll ask another question. If it went against, if you weren't happy with it, would you just sit back and take it, or are we looking at further sort of protest movements?
Absolutely. Not just talking me here. You're talking a large number of people. Yeah. So I'm just speaking on behalf of a large number of people. I'm not the sort of person that gets up here and voices my opinion. This is the first time I've ever objected to anything through the district council, and it's basically got out of hand. However, I don't give up, and we certainly would be following it through, and we would be going further with the matter. Absolutely, guaranteed.
Thank you.
Further team? If not, thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Next one's David Robertson. Welcome, David. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know me, which is probably most of the councillors, I've been in Milton all my life, 70 years, and I only see two colours, I only see black and white. There's no grey with me, and I'm pretty straight to the point. And what I've witnessed in that park disgusts me. That is an eyesore, and I wish the council would stop talking about camping grounds. When I get involved in anything, first thing I do is go and talk to Uncle Google. And what he told me was a camping ground, definition of a camping ground is somewhere for people when they're away from home to pitch a tent or park their caravan. It's not long-term housing. It's two completely different things. And that's the first thing that needs sorted out, what you're doing, whether you're building a camping ground or whether you're building long-term housing. And if I knew for sure that it was the prison behind wanting long-term accommodation for prison officers, I'd have a lot more to say than what I've got to say now. I'm pleased that Councillor Barron stood up and spoke for us, because he pretty much hit the nail on the head. He's a far better speaker than what I'll ever be. But there's only one option, is get those cabins off that green space. It's the only clear green space we've got left in Milton where people can hold events. It's not as near as many held there now as what there was years ago, but there used to be a lot there. It was a hockey ground at one part of it. I didn't realise until I drove into the park this morning, I'd only looked from the main road, those cabins where the number that are in there now take up a lot of that green space. And the next thing that'll happen is there'll be more cabins in there, it'll be leased out, and the public in Milton won't be allowed in the park, because you can't tell me that anyone's going to lease or buy a camping ground or whatever it is and allow people to wander in there and have a picnic and walk around in amongst their things. It needs a tidy up. It's a disgrace. Even where the caravans are is a disgrace. But the first thing is, I can't understand why, when we've already had one round of submissions and 111 people wanted them removed, why I'm standing here today, why they're still there. I can't believe it. And I've got a bit of faith in the council, and I hope they'll do the right thing and get them off that green space. I've got no problem. If anyone wants to talk, I've got a area that's just north of there, and I'm not talking about the tennis court, which could possibly be a camping ground or whatever. But the first thing that needs sorted out is the difference between a camping ground and long-term housing and huts. And you can bench it up as much as you like. They're huts, that's what they are. We had huts in that park years ago, and they were removed because there was problems with the people in them and children. And I don't want to see that happen again. That's about my law.
Questions, Dan? Councillor Mackie.
Thank you.
Did you have a?
No, I didn't have questions.
Oh, sorry.
Well, wait a minute. So there are areas that could be developed in Milton for, say, a camping ground.
I believe there's an area in the Taylor Park Reserve, which is what at present the AMP Society is using, and I always thought was part of their area. But the empty ground at the back that the Historical Society leases actually comes through. That's not a straight line across the bottom of the AMP ground and the football club ground. And I'm a member of the South Target Historical Society, and contrary to what it says in your draft plan, we do still lease it. The lease was paid just a while ago. For some reason, it states in there that we haven't leased it since 2022, but that's incorrect. And I believe that with a bit of juggling, there's an ideal area with a road right to it that could be fenced off and set up and used as a camping ground.
Further questions? Just a couple of clarifications just before you go, Dave. So you said the definition under Google. As a council, we have to take the definition under the Act, which is the Camping Ground Act, which certainly has a different criteria to what they see as constitutes a camping ground, and that's what we have to go by. So you know the process. As a council, we haven't received the submissions yet. We've never voted on it. We haven't had a chance, and until the full process goes through, we listen to you and respect your verbal submissions. We look at the verbal submissions. We go through the due diligence in whatever way that the councillors in a fair manner go about it, and then we decide. And then action gets taken, but it will be quite imprudent of us to predetermine the outcome and make a move now when we, as a council, haven't had a chance to even vote or see the submission. So that's where we are. It is a process.
Yeah, I can accept that. Going back to the definition, I'm surprised that the Clutha District Council is encouraging long-term accommodation in whatever it be, when most councils throughout New Zealand appear to be trying to stop it.
I just want to clarify through you, Your Worship, this council, as in staff and our jobs, we are not suggesting long-term accommodation. That hasn't been statements that we've gone through. Camping grounds are camping grounds, and we abide by the rules, and the people are only able to stay for as long as what the rules say. So that's the position that we take, and we must take. I think there is potentially misunderstanding out there in terms of what people have said, statements made, whatever, but I'm just reiterating, you asked the question, and it's for everybody to understand. It's in accordance with the regs, and there is a maximum limit around which people can stay, and that's the way it is. So it's the submissions and what we put out in terms of the consultation documentation for that. I go back to the point I made before. we're determining the use to which the land can be put, and we've certainly highlighted and tried to explain further what all that a camping ground entails. And so very much will be a case of whether council decides to agree to keep a camping ground or not have a camping ground. And that's a decision they're yet to take.
A couple of things on that. There's a grey area between what's long-term and short-term accommodation, obviously. That's not written down anywhere. I'm not saying that well, I did say that you're encouraging long-term accommodation. I'll admit that. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. There's ways around all sorts of things, and I believe 29 days might have something to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, David. Second last one, Theron Tapp. Theron, floor is yours.
I've just got a couple of papers in that for the council to look at. The first one is an article in the ODT about the concern about people sleeping in cars, and Councillor Cowie suggesting that the cabins in Taylor Park could be used as a temporary solution for that. I've also got another map of an alternative site for the cabins, and that could be, and this is in Balclutha, and that's that section next door to the cemetery. It's currently empty and not being used. It's, I believe, held in case they need to enlarge the cemetery. Now those cabins could be relocated here. So I've got a picture of that. And I've got also another article stating that they're only single person cabins. So that's what I've got here. Now I'll get on to my little speech I've written out here. Good morning, council members and fellow ratepayers. My name is Theron Tapp, and I'm here to speak on the subject of removing the cabins. I have written a submission on the issue and would like to reinforce my position and arguments with this verbal submission. I propose the cabins be removed from the Taylor Park and relocated to Balclutha, where they could be used for social housing, emergency accommodation, or single male quarters. I have several reasons for this proposal. First, the cabins take up valuable space in Taylor Park that could be used for families, caravans, mobile campers, and RVs. The park is a beautiful, peaceful place that attracts many visitors and locals who enjoy its natural and recreational features, including the swimming pool. The cabins, on the other hand, are an eyesore and a nuisance, and detract from the park's appeal and amenity. They also pose a potential safety and security risk for park users and camp neighbours, especially if they are occupied by vulnerable or transient people. Second, the cabins could be better utilised in Balclutha, where there are more services and job opportunities available for their intended occupants. Balclutha has a hospital, a medical centre, a work and income office, taxi service, and large industries such as freezing works and dairy plants. These facilities and employers could benefit from having more affordable and accessible housing options for their workers. The cabins could also serve as a temporary solution for the housing crisis that affects many people in our district, and I've got the map there of alternative accommodation. Third, the cabins are a waste of money for ratepayers, especially with a projected 75% rates increase over the next 3 years. The council should start economising now and stop spending money on unnecessary and unpopular projects. The cost of the cabins is about $25,000 each to build, and they will require ongoing maintenance and management costs. The council should instead invest in more productive and sustainable initiatives that benefit the whole district. Another thing in the plan which hasn't been addressed is the decision to cut down trees in Memorial Park, and then you want to plant more trees and shrubs in Moore Park. I think this is very questionable and unclear decision. And what's the reason and the cost for this? Fifth, it is unclear who the council intends to house in the cabins and how they will ensure their suitability and safety. This information is crucial for the public to understand the council plans and intentions. The council should learn from the example of the Queenstown Lakes District Council, which has found that owning cabins is a burden to the ratepayer, bringing them up to code, and they currently sit empty. In conclusion, I urge the council to reconsider its decisions and prioritise the needs of the community. I propose the cabins be removed from Taylor Park and relocated to Balclutha, where they can be used for emergency accommodation, single male workers, as this proposal will benefit the park and the camping ground and the ratepayers.
Question, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, Theron, thank you for making your submission. I just want to clarify something with me. You said that the cabins were taking up space where RVs, caravans and tents could go.
Yeah, well, there's heaps of, now all the caravans and RVs have all been moved around the front area of the park.
So you aren't saying that you put caravans where the cabins are though?
Well, there'll be more room
for
cabins, because that area's all been paved and that now, hasn't it?
Right.
And driveways put in.
Right.
So if you remove those cabins, you've already got your cost there in setting that up. So you
Right,
could
so
have,
the
that would be freedom campers, accommodation type things.
So the loss of that green space isn't as big an issue as supplying.
Well, it's pretty
space
much
for
gone
caravans.
now. Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing is that the cabins are designed for single occupancy. And, you know, if families, groups or couples want accommodation in the park, they're unsuitable for that. Especially if you've got couples doing the cycle trail and that, they can't be expected to share a single bed. Is it a double in those ones now? Right. Because I was under the understanding from the council thing that they were single beds in each of those cabins. But at the same time, there's no room for families like 2-3 people.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to work it out. So, you're saying shift them to Balclutha, whereas, you know, as a council, we look at the district and we try and, on evidence base, find out where the need is the greatest. So take away all the motels, the women's refuge, the various more structured accommodation. Balclutha already has somewhere around 120 up at the old hospital, and there's somewhere around 60 huts and then additional caravan sites and the likes down at Dennis's there. So Balclutha, the largest town, is at 200. I go down to Kai, between the two camping grounds, they're sitting at somewhere around 40 huts and caravans and the like. Punaware, Awaka, heap of numbers down there. And then I go to Milton, our second largest town, and the town was more often than not presenting more of the social issues that are around accommodation. And the last time I counted, there was 7. Why on a priority basis will we take from where there is only 7 and put where there's 200?
Well, you've already got the cabins in that built, I assume. So what are we going to do with them? I mean, are you going to, my submission is to move them from the park. Okay. Now you're telling me you want emergency accommodation and housing in the park.
That's just clarification again. We're very clear that the issue is the camping ground, and the camping ground doesn't specify the use to which it is put. And I think we have to be very careful that, for everybody to be aware of, that we're not putting, through this decision process, now we've started the submissions, we're not putting categories onto the type of accommodation. We are saying a camping ground, as per the regs, and for whatever uses that those camping grounds are being used. So I just caution elected members and everybody else that that's what we're talking about, and so that's why we wouldn't be making a statement about a particular use. Through you, Your Worship.
Yeah, it's just a needs basis or as we go around the district, the wider need for accommodation. That's, it's not a here nor there. Where are we, councillors? Any more questions? If not, thank you, Theron.
Okay, Chair.
Moving to Doug. Doug Watts. Doug here.
Already spoken. You spoke.
When did you do? You did too. How did you jump to the front?
I don't know. Because you didn't have a number for us.
Oh, you were public forum. Got you. Okay, thank you for that too, team. Thank you, public, for assisting us in the process. Really appreciate it. Process from here is Mike and the team will compile today with the written submissions, and the process goes on. Mike, have you got a time frame for, just so that everyone knows, or the public knows where we are moving forward?
Yeah, Your Worship. So as I said, there's a lot of feedback to get through, including from today, but aiming to bring that back to you on the 14th of March to committee meeting, and then depending on your decisions or direction at that stage, to have the final version of the RMP ready to adopt on the 27th of March at council.
27th of what, sorry?
March.
March. Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. Appreciate your help, Mike. Appreciate every member of the public's input. Councillors, we don't have any recommendations from that. It was just a hearing of the variable submissions. So we go over to the second agenda item, which is LTP. Fair bit of ancillary paperwork to it. So it was Peter and Sharon.
No, I'll take the start of this one, Your Worship.
So we're off to Steve.
Okay, so the team are just going to hand out, because couple of things, elected members wanted hard copies of key documents, so we've gone and done that for you. But also, to be fair, there have been changes which we need to go through with you as well, and that's why you do need it in hard copy.
They might have them already.
Oh yeah, this is the process. This is the process.
No, we're moving. We're ready to go.
Make way for more trees.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Has every councillor, can I just check? Well, what's been put in front of you, councillors, is everyone quite confident that they have already read, obviously, in electronic form? We don't need to take the time to.
Your Worship, what I was going to do is just explain changes, because there have been changes, and I can go through the changes, so that's what you do, noting that you will have read what was in the agenda, and we need to explain what were the consequential changes, and just take you through those so that you're comfortable. You don't have to, it's not my view that you have to read every single thing. I'll just take you through the key changes as a result. So I will lead off with, I totally understand that elected members might feel a sense of frustration at the numbers of different documents that have been coming through with the agenda and post the agenda, right? But I'll also say it's a consequence of the situation we found ourselves in when we had to turn around and change totally the way we were looking at the long-term plan with the government's instructions and advice around Three Waters. And everything went back to square one almost for us and what we had to work through and work with you. So audit timeframes, you'll know that things changed with audit. They gave us different options around, can we make the audit timeframes with these changes? Do we get the consultation document audited or not? We made some changes on that basis so we could make it happen. and we're still intending to go out with this and meet our normal statutory deadlines. Had we wanted to do this so that you had proper notice and full notice of everything, we would have had to go for at least a 3-month deferral. And we didn't think that was what we wanted to do, and we talked about this. And so a consequence is that, yes, there has been some things put through at the last minute for you, and I'll take you through those. But also please understand, staff have worked through the weekends for this. We are looking at, we get the financials that come through, we have to change things, we have to make consequential changes across a range of documents. The whole point of long-term planning is integrative documents, and so it's not just one standalone, you've got to change 3 and make sure it's done. So we've done the homework on it, we've made our final round of changes, we're presenting those to you today. We believe we can still make the legal deadlines that we all want, which is to get an audited LTP out in time, and that's what we are doing. I just want to forestall any, understood criticism and the pain that you're going through that process, but we've just been going through a lot of pain as well to get to this point too. So we're all in the same pain point. So what we've tried to do is structure this so that it helps you reach the conclusions you need to do today, and we do it without being all confused as a consequence. So what I wanted to raise with you is what were the changes that then had to flow through that we will take you through these documents. And what I will say is the key documents in hard copy is your financial strategy, your infrastructure strategy, the consultation document, and the draft rates examples that don't go to consultation, but are to assist you with individual communities, a lot more detail about the individual community examples. So that's what we are providing to you. What we found when we looked at the figures on Sunday was that we're dealing with a new financial system, and we found that the capital loans hadn't fully come through the system. And when that was fixed, the first year figures for communities was something like 32% for year 1. And so on Sunday, this is only Sunday, we realised that that's unsustainable, and we needed to have a look at the drivers for that and what needed to be done. One of the changes that was necessary to make it sustainable was an earlier decision that you had made at workshops regarding the treatment of depreciation. We had agreed to bring depreciation back into the books and fund that, and of course rates fund that. Three Waters depreciation, sorry, rates fund that. Thanks, Jules. And I think originally we were at 25% this year. We were moving to 50% next year, 75% the year after, I think. And I'm not sure where it went after that, but the consequences were quite significant. And then what we also identified that actually all we were doing was building up a fund, and we actually weren't using that fund within the 10-year period, and we should have. So there was room to move on depreciation and so what we are bringing to you today is one of those consequential changes where actually we're saying, and we're comfortable with this because the capital programs we've got, as you will see in some of those key benchmark graphs, show that we are more than meeting our essential requirements for renewals and replacements through that 10-year capital program anyway. So we're already spending a lot of money on that. So that's not an issue, and that's why we can do this. And what we're saying is that we need to change the way we've done the depreciation. So we're only funding depreciation. We keep it at 25% for the first 5 years and move it to 50% in years 5 onwards, because it can be accepted and is more sustainable at that point. But honestly, we're really looking to how we're going to get through the first 3 years, because next time you do another LTP, and we're all hoping other things are going to be coming through as a result. So we've made that change, and that has some flow-ons, but what it did do is it made some reasonably significant changes to individual rates requirements. And when you see the rating examples, we're saying, the average rates rise for year one is 20%, but urban rate rises are about 14 or 15%, with rural around that, but then rural have water rate changes additional to that as well. So that's one thing that we needed to do because it wasn't sustainable otherwise. The second thing that we found while we were dealing with that, when we looked at the water rates, was that the Greenfields water rate, which is the new water rate, looked to be a bit higher than we had expected and what people had been working on. And we realised that we just hadn't built in the Lawrence users, that catchment, into that particular water rate. And so what that meant was we were able to reduce the Greenfield water rate to reflect the Lawrence users, but because Lawrence water is a district-wide, water is a district-wide rate, then that obviously means that that cost is distributed across the whole of the water, urban water, and so there was a consequential minor change to that as well. But we needed to do that. Secondly, and then the third thing we needed to change in terms of the documents was that we're picking up the risk and assurance meeting recommendation to go for the credit rating, and we needed to act as if you have agreed with the credit rating, and that's one of the resolutions that you'll be dealing with as well. And so the credit rating then is necessary to be included within the LTP documentation as well. So we had to make some changes, and that's why you'll see that. We also took the opportunity, under the circumstances, we noted quite a lot of formatting, editing errors and things like that. We just tidied all those things up as well, so we have much better documents in the start. So that was the changes. And so if we look at the agenda, Your Worship, one of the things we were looking at doing was following the sequence of the agenda. If we were to look at item number 1, and then I've explained item number 2, and we could have questions about that and address that, because then I could take, moving to item 3, I could start explaining the strategies that have changed and that to get it approved.
So let's be quite clear here. You'll see through it, we'll take them in their blocks. So 1, I'm prepared to take 1 and 2, then we're doing individual blocks, number 3, number 4. So specifically, let's just, Simon, Councillor McIntyre.
Yeah, through Your Worship, can I just, am I allowed to ask a question about number 2 there?
Can we do one? Can we do item 1 first, and then when we get to number 2, is that okay? Otherwise, we're going to be all over the place. So specifically, discussions around item number 1, consultation document, and the replacements. So we're just acknowledging that council receives the documents.
Happy to move that.
Moved, Councillor Finch, seconded, Councillor, come on, team, Councillor Graham. Any discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Thank you. Right, now specifically on depreciation, and this is a critical one, team, because once again, through external forces, this is the reality that we face, but you don't take this lightly. So depreciation funding has been changed. We see that 25% years 1 to 5, 50% 6 to 10. So specifically on that, matters open for discussion. Councillor Mulwell.
No, sorry.
Sorry, it was yours too, Simon. Councillor McIntyre.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. There's sort of two parts to my question. So historically, depreciation was always pre-3 waters, always 100% on the water asset. Very, very low.
Most of the time. We had one decrease in valuation when we phased it in over 3 years. But generally, we've been fully funding.
Yeah. Okay, so secondly, I understand where staff have gone to drop those depreciation rates in order to drop the rate rises. But that accumulated depreciation forms the basis of the reserves which have historically been used for internal loans. That's correct?
Yes, in the sense of, like if any cash over and above expenditure can be returned to the investment balance, yes.
So leading on from that, by taking less depreciation, there's going to be less available for internal loans, so there is a compromise between a rates rise and the amount of debt we have to borrow. Because if we use internal loans, we don't need to borrow external debt. At the same level.
Yeah, there were a couple of things. One is because the original amount before you smoothed it was so high.
Yeah.
Right. Year one was so high. The preferred approach is to smooth it.
Yeah.
You're smoothing it by getting more debt.
Yeah.
Therefore, in those years 1, 2, 3, there's no way that we are receiving more money than we are spending. So we're not creating anything in that sense, right? So that's not working. Similarly, in terms of the depreciation, any accumulation depreciation, is not sufficient anyway for what we're spending in terms of the capital program and that. We had the anomaly that until we made these changes, when we looked at it, we realised that all we had it done after 10 years was create $6 or $7 million of money in the bank reserves, but actually we should have used it to fund.
I thought you'd use those reserves as internal loans.
We're using it effectively for principal payments.
Yeah, okay.
Is everyone clear of that? This is a compromise. When a compromise, it's not a situation I'd ever have thought we'd get into. But someone's got to give. Sorry, Councillor Volwell, then Councillor.
So I have a question also, Your Worship. Just by not increasing our depreciation levels, how does that impact how much we have to borrow over the next 3 years for a start? 5 years, sorry, over those two split terms of staying at 25% and then 50%. And does that run us the risk of putting us closer to breaching our debt cap?
So the answer is, through you, Worship, it doesn't impact on it because we, under our previous budget, we weren't doing anything with it, we were just accumulating. So we weren't spending it. And so that was something we should have been looking at, but that's all it was doing. And secondly, no, the assumption is that the debt cap or the amount of debt we can take is 280%. It doesn't.
So through you, Your Worship, just to clarify, we're loan funding all of our capital. That's correct, isn't it, Sharon? Yep. And the other thing is we're not just capping our depreciation at 25%. When we build a new asset that is a new water treatment plant like the Greenfield scheme, we're funding 25% of that new depreciation as well. So in real terms, the depreciation is going up, even at keeping it at 25%, because the system automatically adds that we're accounting for 25% of all those new assets as well. We don't increase the depreciation for renewals, but for any growth or level of service capital, it's adding what we're funding. Is that correct, Sharon? Yep.
Can you roll one back, Jules, just so I take it in? Did you say that we are debt funding all capital works programs?
Yes, we are.
If you have no reserves.
Yeah. There must be some rate funding.
Well, we're paying the loan, the principal and interest repayments on the loans that we're raising. So we're fully funding the principal of those loans as we raise them and the interest. So we're keeping up with the repayments. We're just not building up depreciation reserves at the same time.
Where was it going? I went from Simon to someone. No? Good. Further questions, team?
So that was to do with that resolution.
Right, so if we've done the number twos, is someone prepared to move recommendation two?
Not at wastewater yet.
What's that?
I didn't make a joke, Your Worship.
No, let's be serious here, because we're chewing through some pretty meaty stuff. We've done recommendation two. Is someone prepared to move it?
I'm going to move, Your Worship.
Thank you, councillor Herbert. Seconded by councillor McAtamaney. Sorry, I keep councillor Simon. There we go. Any further discussion? Put to the vote. All those in favour? Those against, right, we've got the strategies and the like.
So the first one, Your Worship, is in council is the financial strategy. I'll just take you to the non-editing changes. Page 5 is the first one of that new booklet. I simply, middle column, priorities for improving levels of service, minor change. Fourth bullet point on page 4 on this one. Page 4 of financial strategy, middle column. Fourth bullet point, I simply thought we'd better put Milton Main Street in there. Previously it just said Balclutha Streetscape, so that's the change. The rest were just minor editing. We've just done some formatting changes to subsequent pages. So the next one that we're wanting to look at and highlight is find it, numbers. Is page 7. So we just had to get the overall rates annual percentage change and the rates cap, which has been a discussion around what that means versus the rates change. That graph, for anybody that's a non-elected member or any member of the public that wants to pick up this point, highlights exactly the issue is that we've been trying to make visual, is that the horizontal line is your cap and the bar graphs are your rates movements, average rate movements. So we just had to make that correct and tidy, so that's been fixed. The next one again will be page 11, Jules. Oh, sorry.
Question.
Sorry.
We're on page 7. I'm just going back to looking at the document that we received electronically, which is the equivalent of page 10. And it has, it's got, the way the bar graphs are different, it's actually got the same percentage figures for the rates increase that I see there.
What page, Bruce?
The average rates increase?
Yes.
Yes, that's the numbers. The numbers should be.
The numbers on the electronic document have 20.97, and on the bar graph is 20.97 as well. So after.
Yes.
We had to redo that graph because you've got 2 regions and that can be made.
Right.
So that the numbers are
Okay, so the numbers, even after the change in depreciation, yes, for this year it's the same, but next year.
Yes,
that was done in time after the decision was made to change, or to keep the 25% depreciation. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Which is what we changed. Yeah. Okay, so sorry. And then I'd move to what you said, page 11, wasn't it? Page 11 is the other major, well, not major, but just similarly, the original graph had the wrong percentages in it for the rates increases affordability benchmark, and they're just now correct for the same numbers. So that's just been corrected. And also we had to reflect 25% and 10% for the cap as opposed to 4%.
Another question for me.
Yes.
And this is going back to
page, page 9 of the document.
Sorry, the new document or the old document?
The new document.
Yep.
Just it's got the graph everyday costs and revenue. The figures there, just the annual surpluses or deficits and surpluses in the graph.
Shows.
Yes, and sorry, you're just saying, questioning that's what it says? Yep.
It just says everyday costs and revenues. Costs and revenue are just, I think that it should be labelled annual surplus, deficit surplus or something like that.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry. Yes, we could certainly easily do that. Sharon could take a note. Let's take a note, thank you. And then page debt servicing benchmark is on page 12. Originally it had said 10% was our limit, but it's 20%, so we just have to make sure that was correct. It is 20%, so that's correct. That's all there is for that. And then there was some changes to just some of the wording in terms of the assumptions. There aren't, I would say these are more editing changes for things, and the only difference I would say is that we added a new one in there on the credit rating. And that would be on, we reworded things with depreciation funding, needed to do that. And then we just added one in for credit rating, thanks Jules, page 24. So we just updated for the depreciation decision, the credit rating, and we'd also done some, there was some textual double arts. We tidied those up. There was a couple of, there might have been one where we'd said it was low risk, but the little graph said high risk, so we just made sure it was correct. We tidied those. But that's the material change to that document, other than what you already had in your agenda, Your Worship. So we're happy to take any questions about that, but that would then be ready to be agreed at 3A, Your Worship.
Financial strategy, Councillor Barron.
Could you just go back to the start, and is this document finalised, what the wording in it? Or it says draft subject to change, is it just the content subject to change, or the items in it are subject to change?
So the you'll have a resolution there that says after this, I could do editing changes, so that there was further minor errors. But in material matters, this would be, once you say yes to this, that would be, we would.
So on page 4.
Unless the auditor makes a change.
Unless the auditor found that we've got something.
On page 4, where it says taking care of what we've got, renewals.
Yes.
Renewals of the Clutha and Lawrence Library buildings and Milton Pool Library renewal. They're in the system and gonna happen. We're gonna build a new Milton Pool, and we're gonna build a new Clutha Library. Is that what this document says?
So the Milton Pool and Library renewals are within the previous annual plan and LTPs. There's budgets associated with them, and that's an existing project. We have said the last part of the project we need to get to is a clearer cost idea, and we said the possibility may be that we might have to do a consultative procedure once we get the final costs relative to the budget. So that's in the system, but we might still have to do another process if final costs really blow out, and that. So we have a control point. In terms of the Balclutha and Lawrence library buildings, they're related to stuff that we had to do pretty quickly, which was the urgent work that we have to do from the health and safety perspective. And there is money put aside much later in the LTP for the Balclutha Library. And at the time, it's in the activity management plan. It remains in there in that plan, but it's still a long way out, and a lot of things can happen as a result.
Right, so we were asked to comment on the activity management plans.
Yes.
What happens to those comments or those documents? Do we discuss them, or are they your own use, or?
Yes, and so this is part of the integrated nature, I suppose. What we can do is there is another there's another document that we have got relating to all the comments on the activity management plans and our responses to those to go through. And in fact, there's a resolution here in one of these ones. Which number is it? It's 4B, when we get to that. And through you, Worship, if you made a substantive change to one of those, it would flow on to the other documents. So we can still do that.
So, just to clarify, simple terms from my head, if the Milton Swimming Pool come in at 25 million, we could can it.
You would make a decision as to whether you would do a consultative procedure to take that 25 million to the community and say whether they'll go for it. I mean, I suppose you could say to can it, but you have to remember, which I've said to everybody before, is you already have a consulted on program that says you're going to do something. So to just can it, the suggestion is you should be consulting on that.
But you could consult on it for that purpose. If it was deemed to be raise the rates too high, or we couldn't afford to borrow the money or something like that.
Yes, and we've said that. We've actually signalled that that may be the case, that we'll have to do a consultation.
No, like I say, to go through all this, every piece will take you months. You've been through it, and all the staff have been through it.
Well, just remember, activity management plans have been worked through with councillors over quite some months, and then we were trying to present it in its final version a couple of times ago, and then for comments, and then we've just done some more opportunity for comments to finalise. But when we say finalise, we think the work was done through workshops and direction of what's in the activity management plan, as opposed to any significant change in direction. That would be different.
But between now and April, May, we find something in there that in the overall picture we want to rediscuss, we still can.
Yes, as long as you're aware of the consequence it might have on your total program, because the argument is materially everything we've talked about should have already been determined by you as council to get to this point, and we're yet to go out consultation, which is a different thing, where you make decisions.
Yeah, but we did workshops, which aren't decisions. They might be a directive, but they're not a decision. We listen to the public, we go through the consultation, and if it comes to light the Project X is gone, or if in light of, holy heck, that rate rise will mean the Project X is gone, then Project X is gone.
I'm not disagreeing, Your Worship, you and I just said a totally opposite thing, because we're talking about two different things. I thought the question was, can you make a material change to any of these documents before going out for consultation? And I answered the question. And then I totally agree with you that you as council can make any changes you want during, once you've received the submission to the consultation. Not arguing with that. But the point I'm trying to raise is that the time for material changes to these documents that you've gone through with workshops already, right? Depending on, when I say material, right, significant change, and I'm bringing some significant changes that we needed to do, we've got limited time to be able to do things, and we might have to change our program if we have to go backwards.
Just to assist Councillor Barron, though, the intent of his question, I believe, is there still the opportunity to make changes that we need to? Yeah, there will be.
Yeah, because outside, we could have done all the workshops and made all the decisions, but outside influences, economic wars, floods,
People,
whatever,
public.
could change what we've already agreed on.
Yes, and what I said
That's what I'm
though,
thinking.
what I said though is if you make a material change, there are consequences to that, which says we may have to go back and change the audit, might have to change the consultation dates. Everything's achievable. Our job's to tell you the consequences of those things, if that's what you want to do.
Councillor Cathwood.
Yes, so then my comment to that would be, had I known before we had those workshops and we discussed some of these projects, the implications, and I'd seen that we're going to go to a 200% debt cap, I would have made completely different decisions. So cart horse. So I'm going to have submissions. I'm going to read the submissions from the public, and of course they're going to be up in arms about these large rates increases. So we're going to have to go back and calculate. It's obvious. It's obvious. I'm going to listen to the majority of the public.
We are to the ratepayer.
Yeah,
I'm not getting it staff, but had I known that we were going to end up in those debt situations, if I'd had an up-to-date spreadsheet of where our debt was at, which is something I've been asking for quite some time, to know where we're at, we're tracking along, we would have been making different decisions of projects to go forward.
And I think like in November,
That's how I
every
feel.
decision is off the table in light of in light of new information. But we know where we're going. We have to have faith and the staff and ourselves are under immense pressure from external forces. This is only one step in the process. We take in all the information, all the everything, and we come up with the decisions. Knowing that if you were to change a big project, just to flick it out and have a vote on the day is not going to happen. We would have to take it aside and run it through an ancillary process for that individually. Rather than naming the projects, we know what we mean, but we can't just do it on the whim of a council meeting.
I'm not arguing, sorry, Your Worship, I'm not arguing with your ability to go through and do whatever you want to do as a result of submissions and decisions. The question I thought Councillor Barrett asked me was, can we make a material change to these documents now? And I said, my answer was, that's the difficult one. If you want to make a material change now, after everything that we've done, there are consequences. That was my simple answer. And I'm not debating or arguing with the councillors. You can do what you like at submissions. I agree with you.
There's the draft subject to change written on the top of the thing.
Yes.
And I was saying, what's subject to change? Is it just the content, or is it the items that are in here? Now I'm clear.
So let's get back on track here. Any further questions on this before we tick over to the next one? B or whatever, infrastructure strategy. Is there any further on financial strategy? If not, we'll go to the.
Did you want to move that one now?
No, I'm gonna remember I was gonna do it on the blocks of 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so the good news was that actually we didn't make any changes since the document put out for the infrastructure strategy, so it is the document. And so other than if you have editing changes, I'd probably suggest that you just bring that to us afterwards, because the ability is there to do editing changes. But if there's some substantive changes that you're wanting to make that we can change, then we should make those.
So quite clear team, only the big stuff. We're not wordsmithing here. Specific questions, comments on infrastructure strategy. I went through it, that's what it is. I've got no questions. Does anyone else? Okay, so we can safely move on to our place, the consultation document.
Okay, Your Worship, so that's the big A3. If we now just go to my marked up version of what we did. Okay, so we're on the consultation document. So the material changes that we Other than formatting, the material changes that we made to that document were, we thought it would be, the first thing's on page 4. We just put that consultation question relating to the rates increases with the box directly under the graph, so that it actually made sense what the question was before in respect of that. The other thing we did was page 5, the water rates. Obviously, we did make the change to Greenfield in terms of what it was originally, and we've also showed the 23-24 comparative figures, so at least there's a comparison of those. And obviously, then the urban water would have increased from the original page 5. So that's the changes to that one. Sorry, there were questions.
I just want
Sorry, the what, councillor?
yeah, Steve, so the water rates, so we've got Greenfield water new. Where's the Chuapika, what they were paying?
So, Your Worship, this was a tricky one which we resolved on Sunday how we were to treat things. And the issue was because rating doesn't happen partway through the year, it happens, as of July the 1st. So you've got to deal with this issue of existing water schemes, don't you, with a new water scheme, and when do you start rating? And the reason why we switched to we should start rating for Greenfields in the one shot from the 1 July is that we're already spent and spending money for what's contributing to that particular rate, right? And so we believe that that's the best way to address it, because the alternative was you can't do a part rate through the year. You would have had to keep the original ones and then change it to the year after. And so that's why we concluded, didn't we, Jules? We thought that was the best way to treat it, given the vagaries of the rating year and system we have.
So you should drop. So Councillor Martin, do you want us to put the individual rates for those schemes there?
Well, I was just sort of wondering though, like, because up the top here we've got urban, on demand and urban are restricted, but like for the ratepayer, I know, appreciate there's change happening in our ward, but for the urban people, they'll, the urban people and then the farming community, the Greenfield water new, I wonder if we need to have a wee statement around there that this is an incorporation of the old da-da-da and the Chuapika urban combination thing. I appreciate what you're trying to doing here, but I'm just thinking you might get the odd one ask that question,
Thanks, that's a good point. We can just put that as a note. Sharon's got that a note because we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, but the pensioner wouldn't and some of the farmers won't.
Councillor Catholic.
I just need to clarify probably you, Jules. I've got Richardson Rural Water Scheme, those rates are unit 1,000 litres, is that correct?
Per day.
Per day, yep. And the restricted urban is classed as 1 unit, which is 2,000 litres per day?
No. In some townships we have 1,000 litre a day restrictors. In some townships we have 2. It depends on the capacity of the supply.
So Kaka Point
is currently at 2.
The 2,000 litre a day
restrictor.
Yep.
But we know we know that the properties don't use that. So if, for example, the demand.
No, that's what they're paying for.
Well, they're paying for an urban restricted connection.
Correct. It's coming from the Richardson Rural Water Scheme.
Okay, Tim, next page.
Yep. Then, of course, we just had some formatting problems with the rates examples, and of course the rates examples themselves had to change. So at least now we've got lines lined up correctly and the right figures for those changes. So that's what you'd expect to have changed. We've just, I'd say, editing changes on that next page. Similarly, more on the one after that. think the next big one is, next big one is an editing one on page 11. We just got through a bit of a double up in some of the content. There was nothing major there. There was on page 12 and page 11 and page 12, we had some double ups in the content of the headings, and we've just fixed those. We've got proper content there. And what I also did, just pick up a highlight point, with the library renewals, we've just made the statement, long-term future library can then be properly assessed through a subsequent long-term plan process, but for budgeting purposes, we included funding we spread over 2 years. So we're just highlighting the point that we don't have all the info, but something's in there, but way out, and that there needs to be a lot more work done around what would be happening with the library.
Councillor McAtamney.
Thank you. To be a wee bit of a pain again, could I just come back to page 6 and those rate examples? Just as Jock asked for an explanation around the Greenfield scheme, could I please have just maybe an asterisk and a note for the rural rates examples that they do not include any water costs? So they don't look too bad.
Yeah, excluding the rural water, and we'll get to that when we get to the Bible, and I'm sure Richard's going to want to hear all about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't.
But just with the note there, so people can.
Yes, we'll pick that up, thanks.
Yeah.
Interestingly, with that last night, when we'd excluded the Greenfield Wharf for Lawrence only, which was 14%. So it's only the urban 14% for Lawrence, and of course that's now spread across the 6,487 urban units. For the likes of Milton and Kacker Point units, it was $72 each. And it really brought home to me this Three Waters, the dichotomy we've got, that Greenfield, $70 for everyone, this one, that, and you just start adding them up, and it's a huge figure. We got a few years out of the districtisation, but we just don't have the numbers to carry the load. 14% for Lawrence of the Greenfield equated to $72 for Kacker Point. Loaded up on every project. And it just shows why the ungodly costs are coming through and how much of it is Three Waters.
It's, through you, Your Worship, it's interesting too that if you times the Richardson water rate by 2, the Kacker Point restricted rate is, or the urban restricted rate is still less than that. So it's part of that, just that being spread out over the rest of the urban.
Yeah, it was just that impact of each, we can do it as a districtisation, but you can see how quickly it had run its course. The figures are too big, our ratepayer base is too small. But
Next
one.
Next one is page 15, community housing. We really struggled to get this one right in terms of what the consultation questions were, given the text. So we've tidied that up. So we're clear that there's actually 3 questions that are being asked. And we tried to make it clear around what the options, how the options fitted, and what it meant for rents, and then what were the consultation questions. So we brought in which of the above options do you prefer for funding the housing program, which was based on the work you did with the activity management plan. That's correct. It was a bit confusing around the options around what it meant for rents, and we fixed that so it was clearer. Whole section on that, and then that issue around there were two actually components of things. One was that there's one of the options was the possibility of subsidising rents from rates. Another one was whether we were changing the means testing or the tenant priority policy. And we need just to be clear that those are different questions, and people needed to be able to have a say on that. So that page just had a tidy up to be clear around the options that we'd identified, but how we were writing the questions associated with that. So that's the main changes for that page.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Valwela.
Sorry, I'm going backwards again, but on page 11, towards the bottom right, we've got increasing standards for discharges to the environment. This is post investment in infrastructure. The total figure there is $196 million for 10 years, but it's only 1.69 million in that second paragraph below there. Is associated with consent compliance requirements. Is that correct?
No, through you, your worship, there's a typo. The point should be after the 169, it's supposed to be 169.0. So it's 169 million is identified as compliance. So that's part of.
That's a slight change, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then perhaps we've got, sorry, just above that, well above priorities to improve levels of service in the same column. We've got key priorities include, and then the second bullet point, upgrading the wastewater infrastructure so as to improve the quality of discharges to the environment. That perhaps should also include so as to meet our resource consent conditions. In order to meet our resource consent conditions, because I think the public thought we were just had this nice altruistic view that we wanted to, which we do want to improve our quality of discharges to the environment, but we are really compelled by our resource consent conditions to do that.
So we can change that to, councillor, to just to add on and meet resource consent conditions. So we can pick that up. Thanks for that. But we're back to page 15, and Jules just reminded me that there was a, to get the figures that we needed for this page and also look at what the picture was for costs and rent raises, a decision was also taken not to include depreciation as a cost in the community housing portfolio. And the reason why we chose not to include it as a cost is because actually, when you think about it, the investment we're already putting in around renewals and new housing is already sufficient for, you don't want to double up, and you want to be particularly careful, Your Worship, that when you are talking about, affordable rents, that, are you looking at the drivers of the rents, and if we're already including the renewals and the maintenance and all that side of it sufficiently, then we didn't need at this point to add another dollars onto the rents.
So spending $400,000 a year and fully funding that. So that's funding the principle of that going forward. So that's why we also looked at a 6-year time frame for the rents. So it's not just what's the rent next year, it's what's the trajectory for the rents with this work program going forward. So that's what's in the consultation with the projected rents over a 6-year period.
Yeah, so then so the 6% per annum projected costs, you've taken into account the rates implication as well, eh?
Yes. Our projected rates increases in the future years.
Yeah, they're all been
absorbed. They've been projected into those increases in costs. So that covers those rental increases, it covers the investment in the units and the repayment of those loans. So that's all been built into the funding model for the rents. And we're trying to just spread it out so it's an even thing each year rather than it's got to go up at the start.
One year.
That's right.
Okay, so the next one was just
So on that page 15, under the options, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines down, should that be 400?
Yes, it should. So the comma's in the wrong place. Right. Should be no comma.
the next one's the Kaka Point toilets on page 17. We just made the change to the basically to the graph to show its rating impacts, not funding. So that was just a minor change. And other than that, we did a bit of revamping of the questions based on the changes we made to the document. And that's all we've done in terms of tidying those up. So for example, community housing, you'll now see the different questions based on the changes. Otherwise, they're based on all the original documents that we have. So that's the document, Your Worship.
Right, so specifically team on these so that we can vote on them, and then we're going to have afternoon tea. Questions, please.
Councillor Mulwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on page 17, regarding the 4 options for the Carker Point toilets. And option 4, it includes both the funding for the location of the toilets in the Surf Life Saving Club building, and also a grant to the Surf Life Saving Club of $300,000. My personal opinion is I don't think those two should be tied together.
Either or.
It should, the option should perhaps be given that we put the buildings in the Surf Life Saving Club building, but not necessarily give a grant out of rates for that. Because I think most people would then go for option, one of the previous options, option 3, which is cheaper, a bit somewhat cheaper. Again, it's just about not quite double to go to option 4. So
the issue, which is the whole 3-year worship, was pretty complicated because I think each individual group would be quite happy if the toilets were in the toilets and they got new toilets, and the Surf Life Saving got new buildings and council put money into it, they'd be happy with that. Our point was that if you're going to put new structures like this there and put ratepayer funding to it, then you need to consider at least the option of a joint project, which is what we're doing. But it was also clear that the Surf Life Saving wouldn't proceed without asking council for a grant as well. So that's why it was hard to separate it. In that it is true that you might say if we did it the other way, the Surf Life Saving would be submitting separately for a contribution and a grant to their building, and you'd be doing a separate one for the toilets. So when you said option 3, they might go for option 3. You would have to look at option 3 plus actually Surf Life Saving going to ask for money too. So it's not the consequence of going to option 3 is actually you're still going to potentially be asked for money for the Surf Life Saving, which may or may not proceed. It was really tricky to try and get and understood, and Mike will know because he's been trying to deal with it, get clear what the options were. But if you were doing a joint building, I think we understood enough to know that the joint building would require a contribution from the toilets and a contribution towards the building. And so it would be combined in that sense.
can I just, before we move on, I guess, does that, if we decide to go for option 4 here, but we had sufficient amount of investment funds to surplus investment funds, we could use those instead of using rates.
The options will come out.
That's
Discussions.
$100,000. We're like $400,000 is public toilets.
Any
rate of $300,000 could come from
that would be the same for option 3 as well, to be fair. But I mean, it's like anything else. We could say, do you say a note that rating's one option, there might be other sources of funds, because it's a decision yet to be taken, it's discretionary, who knows, but at least there is one thing you do know: if you were going to do it by rates, this would be a rating impact.
Yes. That is good to know that.
Sorry.
What we need to do, like, we're getting bogged down on the detail, I feel. If you've got another suggestion, throw it at us, Bruce, or we're going to tease it out in the consultation.
I just see, what I want to know if there was anybody else had any thoughts on that.
Well, come up with a suggestion, but we are getting bogged down on the detail.
I could just do a suggestion, is that we could put, we could put, certainly on this page, just a caveat or a note that there are other because it could be third-party funding sources. let's just do a note that talks about, you know, it's possible that there are other third-party funding sources, but this might be this would be a worst-case scenario. Would you do that? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still have to ask the question. So how do we come up with this 310 figure? First of all, yourselves. They haven't come to us with a figure wanting 310. So my thoughts were, we've had the toilet people, the Carter Point toilet group has come along, presented this figure here of 578. For me, I thought it was 578 would be the figure that would go towards the surf life, which included public toilets. It wouldn't be an increase where it's 440 and 310. Like, I don't know where this figure of 310's come from, because the last report when they came back to council was we were still waiting on a seismic report, whether they could actually replace the building. Got paid for. I don't know where we were. I don't know how you got this figure.
I'm pretty sure we got it from the club. Doubt if we made it up.
Through you, Your Worship. There was a workshop a few months back. Mike presented a paper at that workshop. In that workshop, there were costings that were put up, and those numbers were taken from those costings at the time that went through the workshop.
It's confirmed that they can build on that site.
So that's you asked.
We're going to have to ask a consultation question. Is that site confirmed?
So that's, I might actually ask Mike to come up, because there's, as of yesterday, I think, there's another piece of information that's come to bear, and it'll go to, at the point of me drafting this, there's actually some commentary in the actual question about seismic.
Yep.
And I might get Mike to talk to what happened in the last 24 hours.
Through you, Your Worship, if the question is, can you build on that at their location, whether it be a new surf life saving club or toilets or whatever, new structures, then there has been some geotechnical work done to understand what the ground conditions are like, and the answer is yes, it could be done, but it might be a little bit more challenging than a normal build because of what it is. But yes, it could be. You can build there.
So then how did they get their costings if they've only just got this result to be able to work out the pricing? Because it's only come out there.
Initial estimate could change.
Well, as they've made quite clear through you, Your Worship, when the Surf Life Saving Club came and spoke to you, that they would be looking for a contribution from council towards their build. They would be looking to fund obviously the bulk of the cost of that building, but that they would be coming to council to ask for a contribution.
So is that capped? Is that 310 capped as our contribution?
Well, that's what we're consulting on.
Someone could come back at 500,000 or whatever, and if that's the overwhelming desire, and we decide from there, but it's an opening discussion figure. Opening salvo for 10. Okay, Tim, I want to try and push this on because we are getting bogged down a bit here, but have we got any further questions before we go to the vote?
One more.
Yeah.
On page 12, the Milton Community Library, in the Alfluga Library.
Thanks, guys.
And you've got a rating impacts there for the Surf Life Saving Club. And we've had a rating impacts report for the Milton Community Library for the Milton area and the wider area. Is there any reason that can't be included in these documents to let people know what the impacts of those projects on their rates? The last sentence says a modern facility for people of all ages and backgrounds throughout the Bruce area. My neighbour here, Councillor Kennedy, said it's unlikely that anyone in Tapanui will swim in the Milton swimming pool. And so they're going to read this and say, oh, that's good, they're going to build a new swimming pool. But then they say, oh, God, it's going to cost me 50 minutes a year. Is there any reason the impact, the rating impact for those projects cannot be included in this consultation document?
LGC?
Yeah, the question, I mean, you can do it for anything, like you, for any of these figures, you can put a rating impact. Right, if you want to do that. We have picked out, by your agreement previously, what are the key consultation questions? And those ones then attract a lot more information, including, more direct information about rating impact. Because there isn't a question that says, do you support the library at a rating impact of X amount, or a yes or no? It doesn't ask that, right? Because they're not key consultation questions. That particular one, the Milton one's already in the system as a budget. It's just a key project, right? And the Balclutha one's way out there. So way out in 2030. So it's not something that was considered as a key consultation question for year one of it. And so we put the effort into the key questions, which we've gone with you before and said, what are the key ones? We've worked with you on that, you've told us. And that's why we do that. And so you just got to be careful that you're not building it into a key consultation question or something. But on any of those, we could have put a rating impact, but then some of them are more difficult to do than others.
And we've also got the underlying ethos that we're hunting as a district here. And I know that I'm probably never going to get my shoes wet from the Patterson Creek Stormwater Project, but we all happily contribute. I know it is. So let's move on. It is done.
Sorry, through you, Your Worship. The only other thing was we did a multi-page document with all of that cost information when we consulted specifically on the Milton Pool project. So that information's already been out to the public, made got the feedback, and council's included it. So it has been out there, and it's still available on our website as well.
Hey, look, can we start getting back to this and start making some headway? Relevant questions to where we are with this, please.
Just a quick one. Page 19, option 2 on the community housing. Instead of though, it should be through.
Those are small grammatical changes that I expect the team to make.
But you can tell us.
Yes, feel free.
Yeah, just the smoke
Tell
of
us
time
in
to
the
tell
note.
those changes. Councillor Mackie. Was that not then Councillor Herbert? Was someone there? No? Okay, and we exhausted the question. Yep. So we're going to do all of three, go for the vote on three, and then we're having a big dinner now. So do I have a mover, please? Moved Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Loobman. Any further discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Thank you. Can we be back here at 20 past? We have a good stretch, a decent one, a breather, but I'm going to start blithering at 20 past. Because we're getting into the Bible where it all happens.
Not really needed to be here.
There's also the fact that it gives the staff 20 minutes to go and find the statement from Antonio Guterres, the head of the United Nations. Okay, team, we're back into it and we're on to number 4. So please, if everyone, first one up, Rex and Downs.
So just number 4 though, your worship, let's just remember everything is noting in this one in terms of resolution. So we got nothing to add other than these are the end results of the changes that have been made.
John.
Thank you, Worship. Look, given that's the first time we've seen this edition, the planning and regulatory's got the biggest, it looks like it's got about a 50% increase. Is there any context or commentary around that? Most of it goes up about 50%.
Other than the fact it's not particularly like material in the total dollar side of things, councillor. I mean, like, there's nothing that would leap out at me as to why specifically. I mean, it may be a result of the overhead shift or whatever, because in the past it used to be part of a bigger department. Now it's its own department, so possibly, but unless Sharon can leap out and yell and say there's a big reason. Sharon, can you tell us the big reason?
Partially it is because of the restructure and the shuffle and change of the building where the overheads come from, which is something that we are going to revisit when we do once all the finishing of the regional departments is finished, we can relook at overheads.
It's just a big increase, that's all.
Dave.
What's the main contributor towards the $100 on the UAGC increase? What's the major? Would be my question.
UAGC, Sharon, main contributor to
The
that.
$100, yeah.
Sharon?
She's looking at it.
Sorry. Exactly $100.
Yeah, 2027 it goes well. That's unusual.
So what we may do if Sharon's just, while Sharon's going through, I'll take another question, then we'll go back to Dane's on the UAG. Is that okay, Sharon? Is that what I do? Yep. Councillor Barrett.
The UAGC on 2026, 27 and 27, 28, it drops down, goes down.
So Sharon, can you look at that as your next one along? 3 years it drops. Just the reason of that. Do we have another question that we can chew into without Sharon's assistance?
Probably not.
Councillor Volwell.
Just, we've got the surge stormwater support. There is not a lot, I mean, it's a relatively small amount now for the urban ones, but it's, so where was I, looking at some of the rural commercial ones with capital rate, it's a reasonably significant reason for it anyway. Is that put into a special fund or is that spent?
Through you, your worship. So that is, we have a separate business unit. So when we spend money on wastewater upgrades or extensions of networks, 10% of that cost gets funded from that business unit. So a loan gets raised and we fund that loan for the 25-year period for that. So as we do more wastewater upgrades in the future with some of our really big ones, that should be going up. That's what we see towards the end of the 10-year period.
Still waiting, Sharon? Still waiting? Yeah. Oh, hold on, wait.
so part of the UAGC increase is aligning the civic budget, which is you guys, because I think we talked about it at the workshop that we were way behind. We hadn't got up to date with the salary budgets, we didn't keep up with the remuneration determination that comes from the government. And the other part of it is in service centres and libraries, so it's loan funding kicking in.
So look,
Is that one?
and then we'll go to another question and then she'll come back to Councillor Barron's one when Sharon finds that one. I think for me, the noting that I've done is that this year, if Three Waters wasn't burning us, the rate rise would be 4%. The cumulative effect of our decision making, though, everything to me now is that this is untenable. Long term, it's unsustainable, and we have to give the opportunity that we will only get through time for government intervention to bring the efficiencies. There's no efficiencies on the table at the moment. The difference between 25%, which has exacerbated what we saw in the public forum this morning, and the 15%, that's a big difference, but 15% is still a big rate rise. If you take the urban rate rises, so if you take the urban rate rises, they're pretty much 14 to 16%. If you exclude rural water, rural and urban are at 15. So they're just figures on the trajectories, but the consequence of in year one, go to year one date. It's the first year that we're looking at trying to give the government the time to sort it out. Then the other one is, if we're left, it is so untenable for us to be left with 10 years, taking the government's prediction of pensioner rate rises, wage rises, and the likes of the Milton at the end of 10 years, it leaves a single pension at the end of 10 years, we're taking $1 and every $2.89. I've been banging on that it was untenable at $4. $1 and every $2.89 shows this ain't gonna hang around long. So the discussions we're having with our neighbours is critical. The fact that we keep our noses clean as we can during the process, because it's like picking a rugby team and the time that we need. They're figures I never thought that we'd have, but that's what they are. Simon.
Yeah, through your worship, can I just, I fully agree on the efficiencies of Three Waters, as long as a major urban centre like Christchurch is involved. I struggle to see where efficiencies will come if you've got 6 half bankrupt councils together. We're all struggling with Three Waters there.
The only hope would be that I see, Simon, is that you would have one person overseeing it. The ability to clamp down and also on the procurement, where wouldn't it be great? Why do we reinvent and looks like first time we've ever?
With the amount of Three Waters capital spend that we're doing now, we're going to be big procurers.
Yep.
We're buying a lot of stuff.
Yep.
We're just our Three Waters business.
Yep.
I struggle to see where that efficiency comes from. Unless you can bring all those rate payers.
Correct. If we go a target Southland, there will be some efficiencies, I hope. We need the wider mass. But regardless of that, on our own, $2.89, $1 and every $2.89 in 10 years, that is ungodly. That's not happening. So yeah, these are noting. I'm just noting. Year one, let's give them the time we can.
So
year 10, untenable.
So how would it work, Jules? So let's just say our community said, you know what? In 3 years' time, I don't want $1,170 a year to pay for my water, because I can pay off a water tank in 2 years. Install it myself and say, don't want your water. Good investment in a water tank. I live on a water tank. What would happen there? The community said, actually, you know what, we're gonna help ourselves here. How would that work?
Well, it doesn't, I mean, we're charging people, rates relate to, paying for your share of the historical capital investment decisions. So that's part of what you're already paying for. You're paying for, the current year in relation to future decisions and things. And you're also paying for capacity that you are using. So, when you look at that principle, if everybody took up that option and said, "I will do all this," you don't change apart from sort of operational costs. You still got all the costs to subsume. So you would still be rating for these activities, even though somebody might be doing something else to it. Right? So, because a rate is a rate, right? It's not.
So if you did not
not a
supply
charge
a
for a
service at
service.
all, if you did not turn on pump on and not supply 1 litre of water to a community,
It's the
the
same.
community asks, and we go on, look after ourselves water-wise. So you got rid of the whole compliance issues, whole upgrade issues, all that sort of stuff. Right? So I've got a community, we are part of, so I'm a ratepayer in a community where I do not pay for water. I'm a ratepayer in a community where I buy water. I don't go whinging because I only use 3 litres a day, and my neighbour has 1,000. It's just not how it works. I understand all that. But what if that community said, this is not sustainable where we're going. This trajectory we're on is not sustainable. There's trouble ahead here, what we're seeing in front of us. If they used their common sense and they turned around and they came back to council through the submission process and said, could we have the opportunity to relinquish our infrastructure, our water pipes, our water pumps, a whole lot, and we want to take that off our rates and we're all going to look after ourselves. Could they do that? That's the question.
I thought if a scheme was there, it was a legal imperative that everyone join.
Yeah, there's two different things, right? So, and I won't debate what the law says about whether you can or can't about a scheme. I'll just talk about the funding side of things, right? You've got a district, and water is across the district. I'm trying to answer the question, right? There's a district, it's across the district, right? It's based on, it's not charged for a service, right? It's everything, the argument we had it with COVID. I don't want to pay, I want my rates back for what I paid for the swimming pool or the library because you haven't provided a service, you closed the library and you closed the swimming pool. Answer, sorry, we're not charging you to open the doors, you're being charged for the cost of the activity. And if you, let's just say, take it hypothetical, if everything stopped and you said, I'm going to do my own thing, right? And this council still has $50 million of debt to service, right? You're going to be rated for $50 million of debt because it's not a service. You're being rated to fund the costs of the activity. So there's a difference in terms of that. And one of the things we have to be careful of, around those sorts of options, and it's the same with rural water schemes and things as they go to, because they're facing that now, but not to the same extent. But if you thought about it en masse, right, you would be explaining that if people were taking those decisions, it doesn't change the cost issue, and it doesn't change the fact that we have to recover costs from people, and we recover costs via rates.
It will get rid of future upgrade costs.
Yeah. So
no, I'm not. That wasn't the question.
Yeah.
The point was, you would still be rated for what we're liable for, and then the other part of it, right, is that if one community, because we're across the district, if one community decides to pull, what impact does it have on the rest of the district? And that's why you look at it in the whole, and you might change, you might have a bylaw, you might do anything to say, well, you're still going to pay.
So
Okay,
there's
so
also firefighting and all those other regulatory things as well. So I'm sure that Tomata Arawai would have an opinion on it as well. So there'd be a whole raft of things to jump through hoops just to make that happen. You might not be able to get insurance. And all that
So while it's a hypothetical question, maybe it's for another time or
So the answer's no.
don't know.
It was a yes, no answer. Question.
Okay.
But we should be focusing, Simon, on where we are.
To your worship, I was just going to make a comment to Councillor Catholic. What about wastewater? Does that mean those people might get a night card again?
What's that?
What about wastewater? Does that mean those people might also choose to get a night card?
No, I'm giving you an example. That I'm a ratepayer that's a non-3 water user, and I'm a ratepayer that's a 3 water user.
Yeah.
And I'm just asking you a question because our cost increases are substantially coming through Three Waters, right? And I'm looking for and I'm just thinking.
The substantial urban ones.
I think it's an intriguing hypothetical question that we can tease
That's right.
out at the end of the meeting, but let's keep it in mind. I think it's fair, but let's stick to where we are. Councillor something, what's your name? Jocko.
To you, your worship, just to add to a wee bit of clarity to councillor Catherwood's, don't get too focused on the future. Consider the past, present, and the future, because that's what we're all paying for. Whole three, not one, going forward. We've got the past, the present, and the future. That's it.
Okay, and in the present, I've got number 4, A, B, and C, and I'm going to look for, is that a recommendation coming?
No, this is a question, Worship. I was tempted to sort of have a response to councillor Catherwood's question too, but I'll leave it there. Just looking at Milton and Bruce Ward as a whole, we've got a line which says Project Bruce, $22.11, which is paid for wonderful service we get in our ward, which is based in the Milton, hub in Milton. But are they expected to provide, to come and submit what they want to retain that funding?
I would think it's in the budget, and as long as well, I suppose the option is for us to, ourselves, if we're considering it, they better get in and defend their position, but.
Just that I have to this, but they will not do that.
Who said that? They said that. We'll wait to hear from them.
Have we got a question, answer, your worship, Sharon, for that drop?
Oh, I guess, apologies, that's my bad.
You may.
I've made an error in that.
So.
It doesn't actually drop, it goes up to. What are we going back to? I've forgotten, sorry.
UAGC 3 or something.
27, 28. UAGC in 27, 28.
836.
Yeah, it goes up to 831.
So the 5% of the 5.99% is wrong, Peter. The whole column's wrong.
Yeah.
And that will impact on 17%. Next one too.
That'll impact on the rest.
It'll drop the next one. Instead of 17, it'll be less.
So you got that, Sharon? Righto, guys, we're only noting this one. Is there any further discussion before we check and move on? Councillor.
Just one last thing, and I'm just going back to the question I asked before about the planning and regulatory. Would any part of that, because I'm having, we need more justification than what we've got to think. Is there any part of that would be the in-house Three Waters team?
No.
Spring feeds to a different area.
Okey-doke. Someone prepared to note 4, A, B, and C?
I mean, sorry, the thing will be just there will be an offset. If the majority of the answer is that it really relates to the new structure and the fact that it's a separate activity and therefore there will be a cost for that, there'll be it would have been part of another activity. So there's an offset to that.
That's what I would have thought with the first answer too, that maybe it's a restructure of overheads. I just look at it, and I'm surprised there's not more commentary about a 50% increase, because it's by far the largest one there.
Councillor Finch, you're moving the noting of? Done. Councillor Finch has moved the noting of. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor McCrosty, any discussion? Put to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Rapidly moving on to number 5.
Oh, no, so but you haven't done B. So B was noting, did you note that this wasn't changed?
Yeah, I
know
thought
you were
that,
moving, but I wasn't sure whether the council's realised that position.
I thought that you'd said that all of them, everything's fine, there's no substantive changes.
Oh, well, that's true, that what we put out is what we put out.
Yeah.
That includes the comments for the councillor's comments, including Councillor Barron's, but that went out a couple of days ago or whatever. So you're right, those haven't changed.
When you said it wasn't changing, I was pushing on. Does anyone, I will have the opportunity now to go back. Does anyone want to discuss B or C? There is no changes from what we saw. Is everyone happy to hold to that previous vote? If anyone has something to the contrary, please tell me. We're holding to that previous vote. Done. Number 5.
Again, we're just noting, we're not changing the attachment, so that's just that resolution, your worship, to those documents.
So we're only noting, all this, oh God, where is it? All the other stuff that we had. Councillor Ludeman, what are you up to? Well done. So Alison, Councillor Ludeman's moving, Councillor Kennedy seconding. Any discussion on the ancillary documents, shall we call it? If not, put to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Number 6, and this is actually approvals.
Yes, but again, they were out with the agenda, so they got there.
Significance and engagement, living and working, we should know that. So once again, Ellie, what are you up to? Well done. Councillor Phelps has seconded. Any discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? And this time we're noting the consultation plan. And I really, please media, we note that the consultation plan has already got exhaustive public engagement through soapboxes throughout the district. We have a legal obligation and a moral obligation to keep control of our LTP, and that's what we will be doing. And there's extensive engagement with the public through those meetings, and also the meetings that we will have here. And I think that's what we've always done in the past. And I think it will be most imprudent of us to outsource some of the consultation.
So we're just noting on.
But the meeting at the Town and Country, that's, to me, that's just distortion of a process that we are obliged to follow, consultation plan that we've got here before us. So know the implication of agreeing to it. This is the public engagement day.
John, well, from council perspective, your worship and councillors, we're just saying that we haven't got a plan to be approved yet, that it won't be approved until we go to committee on the 14th of March.
Yeah.
That's all.
So, sorry.
Yep.
Given what you just said, and I think in what the submitter requested, and he gave us formal invite, are we going to formally reply?
So what I intended to do, John, at the end of the meeting was to have a discussion, but I've already made it clear, my opinion is that we have a legal obligation to follow the consultation plan as we always have, and it will be imprudent of us to distort the process by outsourcing it. Councillor Mackie.
But it's a public meeting that's been called, and could that not give us a wee bit of indication of the feeling of the public that are out there?
This is something that we'll discuss at the end of the meeting. Yeah.
The resolution doesn't do anything.
The resolution doesn't take away from that, but I was noting that we do have an extensive engagement process, as we always have, through the soapbox, through the meetings here with the public forum, and then on through the formal process of voting. That's, and to lose the rigidity and structure of that could be counterproductive.
Happy to move on.
Thank you, Councillor Herbert. Someone happy to second? Councillor Volwheeler. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. And then the final one is just that we let our CEO those minor changes. Delegate. Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Finch seconded. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against. Okay, can I say, this is the most peculiar LTP we've ever done. I want to acknowledge the amazing efforts of the staff. I'm hearing Saturdays and Sundays and late nights, and I acknowledge the pressure, the stress, the unknown, and the commitment. So thank you. Please do pass on to all staff the appreciation of the councillors to put this in front of us. It hasn't been an easy task, but we do appreciate it, because by crikey, if we didn't have the information, what will we do? So thanks, team. Good effort and extraordinary situation. Appreciate it. Where are we going? Number 3.
West Otago Reserve Management Plan, Mike's here, your worship.
She's all yours, Mike.
Page 25 on your agenda.
Thank you, your worship. Yeah, take the item as read. Obviously, it's been through quite a process, the development of the West Otago Reserve Management Plan, and yeah, putting it forward for adoption.
I want to thank you too, Mike, for that. Like, it was a really good process going through the community, and I thought what was in the plan reflected what we saw from the community, and how many meetings? A couple of million meetings that we had over there, so good effort. Team, what's your thoughts? Councillor Herbert.
I have to move recommendations 1 and 2, your worship, and in doing so, certainly thank Mike and his team, because we all know how important West Otago is to our district, and it's a fairly big area and a lot of reserves to go through. I think 25 in total. So a big body of work, and really appreciate the work that's been done there. So happy to move recommendation 2.
Moved Councillor Herbert, seconded Councillor Kennedy, is it? Yep. Further discussion? There it is. I finally found it.
You should have read it page for page.
I have read it page by page, but I like it in front of me. So we got Councillor Herbert, Councillor Kennedy. Any further discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Thank you. Number 4, amendments, Jules. Straightforward, it's just, you got new names, new name tags.
So just to clarify, it's not just new names, there's a slight little rejig of some of the activity areas as well, but that's further defined in the attachments that are in the delegations meeting subsequent to this report, your worship.
Done.
Pretty close to that.
Pretty straightforward. We've gone through, Steve's discussed with us the changes in structure, the reasons for it, and this is just aligning the new names with the new groups. Move Councillor Catherwood, seconded Councillor Finch. Any further discussion, John?
Does this alter in any way the structure of the community boards and who's going to be there from council on those community board days? Doesn't say it specifically.
Yes. So
through you, your worship, it doesn't specifically alter that, but we have intended to change the attendees at the community boards to closer align them with the activity areas where the work's generated. So the head of some of our new areas where, particularly infrastructure operations, where probably about 80% of the queries at the community boards arise. The intent is that those new heads of will be periodically attending the community boards instead of the chief executive and myself most of the time.
It won't be a consistent team. It could change from meeting to meeting.
We're expecting it to be consistent for a period of meetings and then swap for, say, 3 meetings at a time. We've still got to work through all the details, but the intention is that will change as well. So you're closer to the information to deal with the issues that come up at community boards.
Like your theory.
Right. Okay, so that's for that community board will know what they mean. There's usually the Steve or Jules comes, the breadth to that will be a few more names on the list. What about Julie's?
no, we've got a new administrator.
What is that?
It'll be the administration person for the
Well, we're
community.
looking to do that on a rotation.
Oh, yeah, they move that. So
it's more cover as well.
It's operational, but we have to be aware of it. It's laid out there. Someone prepared to move it? Councillor Herbert's moving, Councillor Finch moved, seconded it. All those in favour? Next one's delegations manual.
Your worship, we're prepared to take the errors that have been identified for some of the councillors in there for corrections.
Can you just state them, Ellie, because you picked up on a couple?
Well, I picked up on, I'm just trying to get into it.
It's me instead of you.
Yeah, with the Cross Recreation Centre, when they came to submit. So I was kind of watching to see where it went. And it went to you. And I think it was to go to me.
That's a typo error because I'm quite, you're doing a good job there. And if you still wish to, then if we can take that as a change, it's not me, it's Councillor Ludeman.
I'm just trying to find, staff found where it is, it's on
But
page 48.
It's one of those ones that the staff are now aware of and they'll
Yep.
pick it up and they'll, right, Steve?
Yeah, so what was the committee, sorry?
The Cross Recreation Centre, I think it might be page 48.
It's got me instead of that.
It's not page 48, I'm trying to find it.
We'll-
The Clutha Recreation Centre, page 49, after Black Gully Recreation Reserve.
So they're pretty basic amendments. You happy to move that, councillor Ludeman, and all four? No, we'll go to councillor McAtamaney.
I think councillor Volweta beat me.
You were, it was like a lasso, I could hardly miss him. Bruce hardly moves in comparison. So I'll still go to you and then go to Bruce.
Yeah, sorry, I meant to ask about this the other day, but your worship, but I'm just wondering on one of the delegations, I'm delegated to the Richardson Water Scheme, and I've only got it's only right at the very top end of my ward, and most of the.
I think that was historic. Stu was already on it, and you've just taken over from Stu.
I was wondering whether, at the time I thought, okay, but I was wondering whether it was more appropriate for a more local councillor.
So who would the local councillor be that's more appropriate? Is that Clinton?
A big part of it.
Yeah. We've currently
Just Catlin?
got councillor Cathwood on it.
Yeah.
And then just you, so there's two currently.
It's probably the most appropriate too, is it? Richardson it would be.
Yeah, well, both in the ward, yeah. Well, it just touches the top end.
Yep. No, you're still on.
It's all right.
Councillor Herbert. Oh, sorry, hold on. Councillor Volweta, councillor.
Just on page 47, the district licensing committee at the top there, it should note, chairperson of that.
Are you delegated to be on it and then the three of you vote who the chair is? No matter what, you're delegated as chair. You go there as chair. Right, okay, it's going to be reflected.
And also just on the first page, the, what do you call them, footnotes, numbering is sort of a bit out of whack.
Through you, your worship, too, a lot of these sections we haven't changed. They were what was adopted at the start of the last triennium. So it's probably, they're overdue, and intention was to really do an update for the committee, the new names of the committee structures and the staffing. And then the full update will be in 18 months once the next elections are completed. But it's great to have these corrections now.
Yeah, I think the youth council note is in the wrong. Note 3 is the hearings panel, which is one below, Joel. So we just need to tidy those up. Okay.
Councillor Herbert.
Just on the first page of the delegations manual, it should have councillor Kennedy and I as on the executive. It doesn't.
Yeah.
That's right. Need to change that. Thank you.
Yep.
And you can switch the water schemes over to councillor Herbert, please.
He's so keen.
He likes the phone calls.
All right, is that a joke or is that serious?
No, serious. You've got me down there. I've never attended any of those meetings. It's
Once you started.
You happy with that, John? Technically, in the future, it would be shared between you, but if that's the West Otago way.
Without getting technical, it does put me in, given that I'm the secretary of the Marflex scheme, can I represent the council on it? When we're at odds, I've got a conflict of interest.
When would you have been on? That's something that possibly Michelle, or is there someone else? Clinton's probably the closest.
No, we'll work it out.
You'll work it out.
Yeah.
We'll do it the West Otago way. Yep. Okay.
So is that the same for Waipahi, that councillor Herbert's Waipahi? No. So it's just my flat.
I'm Waipahi now, aren't I?
Okay, so is everyone comfortable that the CEO picks up the changes? Someone prepared to move all four recommendations? Is that you, councillor Phelps? Did I see a slide? Yes, I did. Councillor Phelps moving, councillor Martin seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Those against, thank you. Standing orders. Who's that? Julie.
This was as a result of the Ombudsman's visit and the recommendations around workshops. He just requested our appendix 12, workshops, process for calling of the workshops. Wanted the wording tweaked so it says quite clearly that our workshops are open to the public by default and are only closed if it's reasonable to do so. So we've taken his recommendation on board and we are requesting that we change that. If they do have to move into public excluded, we'll follow the same process that we do for our public excluded council meetings with the reasons to move template. Just to have some clarity around it.
It's been well discussed, going back from before, so I'm happy to move Councillor Finch, Councillor Herbert, Councillor Vowell.
I had a question. Just in the, previously it says public notice of the workshop is not required. This is on page 32. Now it's amended to public. Workshops are open to the public by default. Are workshops to be advertised publicly as well?
We are advertising.
Okay. And if there's a possibility that a workshop may become public excluded, that be noted in the advertising?
Yes. And it would be on the website as well.
Thank you.
Got a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Aye. Those against, thank you. Road stopping, Steve.
I think we have there's a staff member here, is the,
Yes, but we can take.
Sorry, Pierre, no, come on. Spotlight on sport.
He was more here to answer any questions, Your Worship, if there are any. So he is available to answer questions, but it's a relatively straightforward report.
Yeah.
Take it as read. Oh, sorry, Pierre, the floor's yours.
Just the road stopping, I want to tell, no objections observed. So, I believe it's all good. The land valuation goes to $6,400 and all the costs goes to that.
Excellent. Straightforward, team. Someone, well, hold on. Let's have discussion or questions for Pierre first. We're going straight to moving. Councillor Catherwood, yep. Seconded, Councillor Phelps. No discussion. All those in favour? Those against? Got it. Draft speed management report.
So
Nico, is it you, Jules?
No, Nico's had to head back to Dunedin, so happy to take this report as read. Just would like to note that the information is still useful information, even once we know what the rules are going to be. And we haven't wasted that consultation and feedback from the schools, but just exactly how we can apply it, we'll need to wait to confirm that. So happy to take that as read, Your Worship.
What's the staff member's name? I've forgotten her name. Jocelyn. Jocelyn and her team really did an exhaustive effort here on the schools, and I also want to thank the councillors. It's so frustrating that the resources, the money, the time, the interruption to the schools because the principals were coming and talking to us and staff pretty much been hashed. So frustrating. So, all right, it happened. It's the environment that we're working in at the moment. We can't do too much about it, so we're just receiving the report. I would take it. Councillor Finch, and is that a second?
There's a notice.
Yeah. Sorry, I said received, noted.
I'm happy to second that, and I'll just say that it was still useful information, and I think we can still help some of our communities with speed setting in the future too. What they want.
We had a process, specifically that we went through that's been caboodled, and all the information's there. If in the future we ever got to that point again, we'd have to go through it all again, I think. Councillor Catherwood.
So then on that question, because obviously this vehicle on beaches process, we delayed doing the bylaw, the vehicle on beaches about speed restricting. We were waiting for this to all go forward. This is now sitting on a bit of a hold. Can we still punch through to get that speed restricted? Like I said, we've been waiting for this, and then this goalpost has now changed on us.
Was it tied together?
Well, we left it. We left reducing speed in our bylaw because we knew we were doing the speed management plan. Right. So now that this has been put on hold, we need to still implement speed restriction on our beaches. That's what the public wanted. Everyone wanted it.
I think we just, Your Worship, I think we just take that into the minutes and we'll have a look at what it means. Because I think we need some homework, sure, but it's a good point.
Can
And we can just do some homework on it.
Cool.
But there were two different issues. There were safe zones. There was also the.
No, I know what I'm saying.
Well, we've got a mover and a seconder. Any further discussion? Put to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, right. Gear change time. Confirmation of council minutes. We've got two lots, 7th of December, 25th of January, pages 45 to 58, and then 59 to 65. I'm going to take them both. Councillor Herbert's moved, Councillor Ludeman second. Any discussion? Put to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Thank you.
Just had one question.
No, we said, no.
Page 53, after further discussion, it was agreed the council staff would follow up with another site visit as well as filling the joints and testing the samples that are being collected. Have they been tested, please?
That isn't something we would normally have to deal with minutes, is it, Your Worship? We could take it as a question after the event to do something, but not interrupt the process.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we're heading to regulatory and policy that we had on the 1st of February, 67 to 70. Who's the chair? Oh, me. I'll move it. Who's seconding? Councillor Graham. All those in favour? Those against? Corporate and property, 71 to 77.
Oh.
Thank you, Councillor Ludeman. Seconded by Councillor Phelps. All those in favour? Those against? Then service delivery, 79 to 83. Councillor Graham and Councillor McCroskey. All those in favour? Those against? Noting of the West Target Community Board, Councillor Kennedy, seconded Councillor Herbert. All those in favour? Those against? And then same with Lawrence. Moved Councillor Martin, seconded Councillor Finch. All those in favour? Those against? Risk and assurance, and noting this, I'll move it. I want to, Richard, just as a note, obviously we're having a meeting, it hasn't been decided. I'll give you a ring on the outcome of that 28th of February. Thank you. Risk and assurance. So you will have noted that we've had the resignation of our chair. I want to thank him for it. Must have been ever since the inception of audit and risk, it'll be 6 or 7 years. So I want to thank him and wish him well. The process that we're now going through for reappointment as in staff hands, it's so critical. Well, it's so critical that we get it right. But I'll move the noting of it. And seconded Councillor Graham. All those in favour? Oh, hold on. What are we doing, Bruce?
It's probably the error there that has to be fixed up at
You'll see someone?
the next meeting. Sorry, when the minutes are approved.
Julie's going to come and see you at the end of the meeting.
I've already been fixed, actually, already picked up, actually, in the.
Ruthless efficiency.
Councillor Ludeman's time travel.
Yes. Yes,
We'll
no-
take it that she
Yeah, I
has.
have, it's been fixed.
I'm going to move in a second. All those in favour? Those against, thank you. My mayoral report, look, I'll just go through it really quickly. Really enjoyed Waitangi this year. It was just that finally we were back together discussing as an Otago Southland. So that you're aware, where do we go around the three waters? The Dunedin City Council put forward a paper around the collaboration to date. Shall we say it's in the embryonic form? It was an opening salvo. Discussions tended to lead from there as, can we get the CEOs to see whether we can drift up the island a bit more and extend this discussion? So that'll hopefully Steve might have some information, I don't know, but it's with the CEOs. We had an opportunity to discuss with a number of MPs. Didn't get anything back actually. It's just nothing. Things are getting ripped up, but not getting what's getting put back together again. on just a few additions to where we are. On February the 28th, I got invited to go with Ministers Hoggart and Patterson to Telford and Toko training. So that was good to get in, especially with MP Patterson again. It's great to have that relationship. And then on 11th of February, Food Bank budget advice and job opportunities. I also went to that. I want to thank everyone too, this is the period where things have been a wee bit fragile, shall we say, and I want to, especially my deputy, Kenny's been putting it in for me. I know that you've all been there and probably at the moment, 5 or 6 weeks since the last event, still not right. So there's always the proviso to everything that I'm happening at the moment. I may have to call you in. I really appreciate the attitude, so thank you for that. Around the table, we'll go with Councillor Catherine kicking off.
It's been a while, hasn't it? So workshops, we had the simple workshop. Community meetings, we had New Haven on 31st, we had the New Year's Eve event, Punawea, then followed up with Papatawai. And I do apologise to the team when I turned up late when Roy Johnston was presenting the other day, so hence I didn't make a comment on the day. But on the 2nd of January, I did go to Papatawai, on the community meeting side of things, being the representative. And I was made aware of the issue of these particular hoodlums terrorising locals and terrorising wildlife. So I did what the rightful thing is I went and reported it to the policeman, who went and dealt with it instantly, and it was all squashed straight away. So I don't know why we were sending other people out when it was actually a law matter, right? So there was a law in place. We got the police, and it was dealt with. That's some comments I'd like to make around the table. Okay, so it was dealt with. The family got prosecuted by the policeman, and they packed up sticks the next day and they left the area, and the problem was over. It was that simple. And then I did some work going forward. Local pool, local halls, workshops, and meetings.
Thank you, Dane. Councillor Volwiller.
Thanks, Your Worship. 18th of January, meeting at Waihola, looking forward regarding the water issues there. 29th, Tauromouth Community Society AGM. Next month was Waitangi Day down at the Riot Bluff on the 6th of February, and I went to the Te Rupatau Hui on the following day with the Brunaka and Mayors and Chairs. On the 8th, we had Tauromouth, Our Place, community plan drop-in sessions, and also on Saturday the 10th on their family day, which unfortunately was a washout due to the weather. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Bruce. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Been quite active actually in the thriving community of the Lawrence Tuapeka ward, but like West Otago, I don't know if we'll be as good as them, but we're not far behind them. Plenty going on, and as you can appreciate, just being the only sole charge councillor in a big district like that, everybody wants a piece of me. So it's been good, very rewarding.
Cheers, John.
Entertaining.
Thank Councillor Lumen.
I've got a rec centre meeting, the rural water scheme meeting here, and can't remember anything.
Caught out. I'm sure there was more than that.
Maybe, but that'll do. I mean, yeah.
Councillor Mackie.
I had a council meeting, a couple of community meetings, school reunion meeting, so it's interesting getting involved in that again. Some people rang me up about the rate increase and stuff like that. Other than that, it's been reasonably quiet. I hear there's going to be a council, some people are going to come along and hear these, what Clinton thinks they're not getting, so, yeah, so there's an interesting wee group, interesting wee things happening in Clinton right now.
Nice. Thank you, Brent. Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Worship. 24th of January, we had the West Otago Community Board meeting, first one for the year. The 31st, we had the Glen Kennock meeting, and then we had the combined rural schemes meeting with all the chairs here and secretaries, which was a great turnout. 7th, which was last week, we had the West Otago Health Trust and West Otago Health Company strategy meeting, which was really interesting. They're throwing the ball out way in front of them and seeing what the future holds for them, which was great. And then a couple of nights ago, we had the outplace catch-up meeting with people, various people from here at Tapanui, just where we're at with that. So, but going on, it's good.
Nice. Cheers, Tom. Councillor Grant.
Yeah, not much really.
Could you be a bit more specific, Sam, as we're going to officially list the meetings for
I've
question?
got nothing written down and just basically council workshop and whatever we've done.
Okay, nothing ancillary. Thank you, Chris. Councillor McCroskey.
How do you top that? Tell the truth.
Nothing. Workshop, we're all looking forward, and I'd just like to mention that they lost one of their pretty staunch supporters last week, Graham Phillips. He lost his battle with cancer. Standing committees, walk around Milton, with a couple of staff, Royal Water Scheme meeting. That's pretty much it.
Cheers, Dean. Councillor Finch.
Thank you. On the 18th of January, while we're looking forward about the water, 29th, the AGM at Torrey Mouth, the 8th, the Our Place, and the 10th. The 12th combined museums, that was held at Toko Museum, and yesterday audit finance risk at the Otago Museum.
There you go, Councillor McTamaney.
Aside from the usual council meetings, that I've been to the combined rural water scheme meeting, and also, I don't think you mentioned it, I was over at Lawrence last week with Mark Patterson and a couple of other scheme chairs. And wee bit of gripe around the rates, but also some people have been quite pragmatic about it too. I mean, I've had a few comments that possibly should have been more spent on in the past. And we're only playing catch up. So, yeah, there's a bit of acceptance out there too, as well as anger.
Cheers, Simon. Councillor Phelps.
Just the usual workshops, council meetings, Payne meeting, a couple of working days with Councillor Payne. He was quite happily loading us up with the pebbles, and it was a good result. Got all that done. Just about to see him grinning from the cab of his tractor. Like Councillor McAtammy, getting quite a bit of feedback regarding rates rise, just sort of explaining that 25% was a cap, not the increase. It's a lot of confusion out there. Yeah, it's a wee bit of heat coming on, but other than that, that's about it.
Cheers, Wayne. Councillor Kennedy.
Sad to miss the first week, but yeah, granddaughters came into play. But yeah, to the other meetings in Our Place West Otago meeting, Wasky Gully meeting, and yeah, that's about it.
Thank you, Michelle. Councillor Barron.
South Otago MP Society meetings, just a question to Steve there, they were waiting on an agreement from that original meeting we had. Were you going to update that agreement? Remember?
The answer, yes.
Yes.
We'll find out what's going on.
I mean, that was my first meeting and it was a historical thing. Been involved with the Milton Taylor Park project. Following up on heritage trails, I've been around in circles trying to find out. There's a heritage trail sign at Molyneux, there's one at Ben Hur, and there's one on the way to Tapanui. And there's the one in Punawea. No one knows anything about them, but I've been led to Linda, CDC Linda Moore, which I haven't caught up since Christmas on that one. I've been deputised as a PD officer. I put a character reference into a guy that was at court for failing to do his PD, so now I supervise a PD person 3 days a week. It's very interesting. And today I arranged for a final inspection on our house. It's been going on for 2 years, so it's nearly done.
Okay, just a reminder, guys, that if we do a full list of what we've done, it gives the opportunity for every other councillor to then ask you the specific question on it. So we just sort of try and tie it in a bit more. But does anyone have any questions on anyone else's attendances? Councillor Martin.
Oh, it's for Councillor Barron. Now that he's a PD supervisor, how long before you start smoking?
Yes.
And with that, we'll go back to recommendation.
I've got some contacts.
Page 105. Move, was that Councillor Wheeler, seconded Councillor Catherwood, all those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, moving over to our CEO for his report.
Happy to take the report as read, Your Worship, and answer the questions.
Questions for Steve, Councillor Graham, followed by Finch.
How refreshing to see a contract 791 actually coming under the engineer's estimate. Maybe the tide's turning.
I still think there's the odds. There's no clear trend.
We've had another contract coming under the budget as well for a pipeline renewal contract, so fingers crossed it keeps.
2 in a row is a trend.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. There was a question about packaging for Warren, wanting to see about plastic packaging product stewardship scheme. Was that a local that was asking the question, do you know? Is that for local?
No.
That answers that. And rise in incidents, threatening conduct, inappropriate behaviour. Is this out in the public? Because it says towards employees from the public. Is that out in the public or in our places?
Through you, Worship, I don't know whether it's relating, the rise is relating to that because we get it both in public and here. So I don't know where the connection of the rise is. In that sense, there's a general rise in incidents across the board.
Right. And your safety culture, you've recently introduced health and safety reporting tool. Is that in the service centres, at the offices, where is it?
On the systems will be available to all staff.
All staff.
It's web-based and on cell phones and intranet. So anyone with an internet connection can use it.
Councillor Lundman.
Can you tell me why the member of the public names aren't put in? Why is it just member of the public rather than who it is?
Through Your Worship, it's privacy.
But then it's not private, but it's not privacy for the others.
For Elemental Group, Community Law Centres, Tasman Democracy.
Yeah, so the Privacy Act protects members of the public. It doesn't cover businesses. Right. So yeah, and it's all stemmed from changes that happened in 2020 when we were all in COVID and didn't realise.
Okay, thank you.
Question. Steve, through you, I've got a email from Brodie Dodds regarding an Official Information Act request. Why would I have received that? You've received it, your name's on it, and Brian Cadogan's name.
I've received it too.
The answer would be, it could only ever be for information, because obviously we action the Official Information Act or local Official Information Act requests. So the answer to any councillor that gets something like that is, if you see that I'm on it, or that it's a council addressee on it, the answer is you don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you've got a lot of requests for information, but this is the only one that.
Brodie would have sent it to you, did you?
Yeah, if I'm on it, if you get a member of the public giving you an Official Information Act request and you don't see a member of staff on it, then you forward it on.
Right, sorry, thank you.
Okay, someone prepared to move Steve's report?
I'm gonna move.
Move councillor Herbert, seconded councillor McCroskey. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, documents for consent and seal over on page 115. Pretty straightforward. I'll move it. Someone seconding? Seconded councillor Catherwood. All those in favour? Those against. See the reasons to move into non-public. They're all laid out there. Someone appropriate, councillor Grant's prepared to move Kennedy to second. Oh, what do we do? Okay, we'll give a slight pause then. Councillor Graham, seconded councillor Kennedy, and we'll have a slight hiatus